The man crawls forward, his strength gradually leaving him. The girl sits down in front of him. It seems the brunette wants to live. If this is indeed the case, the hero must promise to do something important and not back down. This man is obliged to protect the beauty's sister all his life. She is the main character of the dramatic novel Alicia Valentine. A little earlier than what happened, the lady woke up. She does not understand where she is, because there are unfamiliar walls around her. It is not clear what is happening. The girl is being beaten, but she obediently remains silent. The heroine was already dead, but there is no blood. The clothes are clean. It quickly became clear that everything was not that simple. You wanted to scream because the heroine was reborn again in a new novel. The confidence was not without reason, because this had already happened 4 times. Mortally tired, the lady did not want anything. There are scars and new wounds on the hands. It seems that the owner of the body was also beaten, and she was first in line for punishment. The brunette orders Alicia to roll up her sleeves higher. She screams, but obviously there is no way out but to obey. It seems the woman is getting even more irritated. She already said that ladies have no right to yell like that. It is better to accept punishment with dignity. Lowering her head, the beauty asks the nanny for forgiveness. A chain quickly forms in my head. The woman is watching the children, and what is happening is not new. The heroine doesn't care who is in front of her. She gets up because she has to do something. Although not the owner of this body, the maiden wants to do the right thing. The nanny seems to have noticed that she has woken up. Stepping forward, the beauty confidently declares that she wants to be punished for her sister. There is no reason, but I don't like to see the little girl being beaten. Her face reflects despair, which is terrible. The girl repeats her intentions again. The body was even stabbed once, a few scratches. Nothing. I really don't want to see Valentine so sad. She's suffered enough already. Alicia cries, asking to be punished herself. Rosetta does not listen. It is easier to end everything as quickly as possible. The nanny moves forward. She seems to feel in charge. Even now, a bony hand grabs her chin. In her opinion, the Duchess's behavior is completely ridiculous. In any case, it is completely unimportant. The brunette decided that was enough for today. She hoped that the ladies would not be naughty anymore, so that they would not have to be punished. They should know for themselves that it is hard for a lady to treat them like that. Rosetta chuckled. The nanny, on the contrary, beamed with happiness. The door closed. There was silence. Alicia immediately began to cry. It was very reminiscent of the heroine's past life. The girl tries to throw out of her thoughts what she doesn't need. Perhaps that's enough. She's no longer Rita. This life is very reminiscent of one of my previous reincarnations. Everything was about the same. In one of her past lives, the girl was hit by a truck, and then when she woke up, she found herself in someone else's body. It turned out that she was now the main character, who was constantly fighting with someone. Most of the time, the brunette pretended to be an ordinary schoolgirl, so she tried to concentrate on her studies. As soon as the lessons ended, she was drawn into a fight. No one gave her a choice. Even 9 lives would not have been enough for that, because unlike the heroine, the girl did not even know how to fight. Despite this, the beauty wanted to go to the very end. She had the hope of going back to herself after death to return to her former self. Everything turned out to be wrong. The brunette woke up in a completely different body. The second novel told about martial arts in a fantasy world. The girl understood that a whole adventure lay before her. Her father was Shinmu, and her brothers and sisters were fairies. Masterful sword control fighting with ki. Every fight was like the last. The second reincarnation was worse than the first. Even if the schoolgirl could pick up a sword, she didn't know how to use magic in this world. Death awaited her everywhere. All that was left was to think about what to do next. Hide or fight, the beauty did not want to give up. Last time, the main character was killed by a truck the second time in a row, but this time everything will be different. She had to overcome her fear. Rosetta trained and trained to become worthy of this title. At first, the brunette couldn't even lift a sword, but soon even a piece of clothing could become a sword in her hands. That's what was needed. As stupid as it may sound, the girl's own confidence led to the most terrible death. When the villains blocked the inner power of ki running away from them, the beauty tripped and hit her head to death. It was even hard for the girl to swear she was like a fish that jumped out of the water onto the sand. It was a stupid ending. The third reincarnation happened. Shortly before Rosetta's appearance, the girl woke up as a terrible villainess named Rita Bernardo. The man hugs the girl from behind. The redhead says that she is his darkness forever. It is a terrible dream. The blonde jumps up in a cold sweat. I want to believe in the best she is, no longer Rita. All that is left is to forget everything. The early sun pleasantly hits the eyes. In her third life, Rosetta was forever imprisoned in some kind of dungeon where day and night had no meaning. Unfortunately, the girl didn't know what time of day it was and how much time she had spent there. It was the worst time of her life. She doesn't even want to remember it. As a result, the beauty died, protecting the main character. He was a hypocrite obsessed with Rita. When a blade was pointed at him, the maiden jumped to help and exposed herself to the blow. The girl didn't want to die for him, and she didn't have Stockholm Syndrome. She wanted to at least look at despair before she died. The beauty hoped that this was her last life. She had completely lost her will, and for the first time wanted to die on her own terms. It seems that the prayers were not heard, because now the soul is in Rosetta's body. Fortunately, the maiden knew the plot of the novels she found herself in almost in detail. As soon as she appeared in a new body, the information automatically popped up in her head. The first life was a normal novel. The second was a battle. The third life is something I don't want to remember. And the fourth is fantasy. Alicia Valentine is the main character, and Rosetta is her half-sister. She was always a thorn in the side of the entire duchy. At first, she envied her sister, mocked her, and in the end, she was brutally killed by the main character. It's sad that in the New World, the blonde is a stupid villain who runs into nothing but trouble. If you think about it, the beauty is no longer the main character, and she doesn't have any special missions, which is a big plus. Without committing evil deeds, the beauty will be able to have a good rest, but something worries her. Taking into account the new life, only 5 years have passed, during which time the beauty has learned a lot and figured it out. You can't do anything with children, but the most important thing is to always get rid of unnecessary ballast. No matter how familiar the pain is, the girl is not going to endure this every day. The worlds change, but the pain is the same everywhere. The nanny's name is Katie, and she will be a clear problem. A girl passes by and sees her sister in front of her. She is humming something, collecting a bouquet of flowers. Alicia, as soon as she noticed Valentine, bowed her head, greeting the beauty. The blonde doesn't understand what kind of attitude this is. The girl shouldn't greet you so timidly. Rosetta hasn't done anything to Alicia yet, although the owner of the body has been envious of her for a long time. The little girl stands still for another minute, and then finally holds out her hand with the flowers she is giving. This is a gift because yesterday, Valentine the Elder wanted to take punishment for her sister and even gave her her handkerchief. Although the lady was not beaten, she wanted to take the blow. She gave a handkerchief before silently leaving. The girl cried so much that I truly felt sorry for her. These are trifles, but it seems that the interlocutor does not think so. Whatever Rosetta may be thinking, the heroine is kindness itself, so it's best not to reject her intentions. Smiling, the girl nods. She sincerely thanks for everything. She really felt pleased. The expression on the baby's face reminds me of something. Rita smiled the same way, believing that this world is beautiful just the way it is. In the end, there will only be regrets. The path has already been passed. Alicia is waiting for almost the same thing. Unfortunately, this cannot be avoided. The blonde examines her facial features calmly, saying that her sister is very beautiful. She has never met anyone like her before. Turning red and showing obvious embarrassment, she mumbles something about how the older Valentine is much better. The heart is filled with sympathy, perhaps because the image resembles Rita for Alicia. The terrible image is the nanny, not the man. The girl cuddles up to the red-haired man. She apologizes, not seeing how the man gradually begins to smile. The heroine's words reminded Leo of one criminal who had died quite recently. She was the nanny of the Duke's 2 heirs. The woman was exposed and punished, but this did not help to get rid of the trauma. Leo began to use this for manipulation. Rosetta was confronted with a scene where a man took advantage of Alicia's condition and managed to completely capture her heart. If I had to pick the most disgusting part of the book, this is it. The girl doesn't understand why this dream appeared. Standing nearby, the beauty gently strokes the top of her sister's head, and she, looking into her eyes, sobs. I don't want to live like this. Jumping up, the lady sits up in bed. She is disgusted by everything, and this can only irritate her. Compassion is a rather strange feeling. By feeling sincere pity for someone, a person pushes himself into the abyss. Even now, I want to help at any cost, even if it hurts. I don't want to change my train of thought. After that dream, the heroine became a little sensitive. Her fear cannot be allowed to develop even more. Alicia must be calm. The downside is that if you really hang out with the main character, you can forget about a quiet life. To ensure that none of the events in the book touch the beauty she needs to distance herself from her sister. The nanny came up from behind and quietly said that she shouldn't make any sounds when drinking tea. The girl quietly and sincerely apologizes, but the blonde doesn't understand what's going on. She didn't hear anything. Something is wrong again. And despite the apologies, Katie orders everyone to get up from their seats. Grabbing her elbow, the brunette drags the Duchess forward. A punishment must be given, so that something like this does not happen again. It seems like it's all about to start. Rosetta can't breathe. Normally, she has an unpleasant feeling. The dream comes back to me again. The girl drops her cup of tea and slowly rises, attracting attention. Smiling, the girl asks what they want to tell her. The nanny angrily clenches her teeth, getting ready to head towards the heiress. Almost shrieking, the woman does not understand how they dare to be insolent to her. She grabs her interlocutor's chin. Still unchanged, the blonde grabs Katie's hand. There is an unknown force in her. It becomes more painful. This event knocks the ground out from under your feet. Power is always a nanny, and girls are obliged to be its victims to be afraid. This man raised the Duke's daughters from the age of 6 and did everything to ensure that by the age of 19, they could not get a word in edgewise. It feels like an eagle is hunting a small mouse. The woman is begging to be let go. She is trying to break free. Finally, the lady let go without waiting. Katie fell giggling. The heroine shrugged her shoulders. She herself asked for it. Breaking the stick, the girl is about to leave. She opens the door, asking if Alicia will follow her. The blonde doesn't believe that she can really leave. In 19 years, she has never left here without permission. Your eyes light up with joy. You can't believe that you have to open the door yourself and step over the threshold. The girl stands outside, thinking about what is happening. She does not understand why she decided to act so thoughtlessly, although this was only half a mistake because Katie's character is well known. A slippery snake who considers herself a saint. Sooner or later, the lady will want revenge. It would be best to deal with her once and for all with one careful blow. Besides helping her sister, the lady learned something else, something more interesting. Remembering the moments the heroine gets distracted, Alicia appeared behind her. It would be better for her to go back to her room. She thinks that they need to talk. It's strange that instead of resting, she wants to say something. At least the beauty no longer cries. She begins to scream for her sister not to do that again. Conclusions were perhaps drawn too early. Sitting on the floor, the brunette is shaking with horror. It is still unclear what is happening, where Rosetta got such strength from. The girl was always terrified of Katie. It was impossible to intimidate her. It was considered a loss of authority. The heroine continues to cry. She looks overly worried. There is confusion and fear playing there. The blonde herself doesn't want this. She's not going to become someone's protector. There's no point. Because of the dream, Rosetta felt sorry for her sister, and she could not stop herself, so she went on such an adventure. It all happened because of the main character, because of her tears, because of her submissiveness. She always behaves differently than she should, and it seems too much. A scratch appeared on her face. The little girl just wanted to help, but in the end, the girl was injured because of her good intentions. After examining her face, the beauty chuckles. She can't believe that her sister is crying over such a trifle. It seems funny. Of course the girl knew that Alicia was soft, but she had no idea that it was that terrible. Marie will treat the wound, and the Duchess is about to leave. She is stopped. The beauty quietly asks to have dinner with her. Although the lady did not expect such a proposal, she still agrees because she does not want to upset Valentine. The duo walks forward down the corridor. A white-haired man can be seen in the distance, quietly calling out to Alicia. In front of them is Duke Demian, the girl's elder brother, and the beauty immediately runs to meet him. She immediately hugs him. They haven't seen each other for a long time. I want to hope that all the business in the north is already finished. It turned out that everything is not like that at all. But in this case, it is better to be more careful. There is hope that soon he will stop disappearing all the time. Rosetta watches from the sidelines. The moment is too cute. One cannot help but notice the resemblance between Valentine Sr. and Rosetta. External similarities are not so important. No matter how similar they are, you will never be able to become a real family. For Demian, the woman standing in front of him is not his sister, but the daughter of his worst enemy responsible for the death of his mother. As awkward as it was, since he was going away for a few days, I had to say hello. Everything was fine. The gaze is focused on the face, the beauty freezes, because she realizes that she has a scratch on her cheek, which she forgot about. I don't want to make the young man think that the lady had set everything up on purpose. Last time, Rosetta was scolded for causing a stir and firing the servants. Naturally, this was Katie's doing. She was trying to ruin her ward's reputation in order to make herself look pretty. The lady does not need misunderstandings. Now it is better to go to the room, be alone, and think calmly. Entering the chambers, the girl falls onto the bed, trying not to think about how tired she is from what is happening. It's a pity, of course, that I didn't manage to have dinner with Alicia. But okay, she needs to be with her brother, whom she hasn't seen for a long time. It's good that the heroine didn't stay for dinner. Of course, there wouldn't have been any hatred or shouting. Everyone would just have been uncomfortable. Perhaps there could have been some slight hostility and other things, although Valentine Senior's feelings are much more complex than they seem. Rosetta's mother was a servant who became a close friend of the family, and one day she decided to take advantage of their trust. The girl poisoned the Duke and Duchess's drinks with drugs and added a mild sleeping pill to his wife's glass. With the help of a hallucinogen, she was able to cloud her mind and pretend to be another person. This was part of the plan. Immediately after the night with him, the girl ran away from the estate and hid the truth for many years. It was never clear why she disappeared. The family forgot about it, and then one day the heroine returned when Alicia was 4 years old, and this maid decided to report someone. Holding Rosetta, her silver-haired, golden-eyed daughter, she declared that she wanted to become Valentine's second wife. The woman tried to appeal to the couple's kindness and hoped that she would be forgiven for giving birth to an illegitimate child without the parents' permission. Everything was not at all as the beauty expected. The man became furious. His eyes turned red. A family friend dared to betray their trust. Having drawn his blade and not allowing anyone to interfere, the young man dealt abruptly with the adulteress. Fortunately, Rosetta did not suffer the same fate. All thanks to the Duchess, who believed that the child was innocent. She was still very young and did not understand what was happening. The girl decided to include the baby in her inheritance, so the Duke had no choice but to enter the name into the family tree. When the storm at the Valentine estate ended, the beauty was slightly ill, with a severe case of fever. The birth of Alicia had initially weakened her body. The betrayal of a loved one and the birth of an illegitimate daughter brought things to a critical state. In the spring, on the children's 6th birthday, everything ended. After the death of the Duchess, the relationship became completely bad. Following the last will of his mother, and knowing that the child was not guilty of anything, the boy tried to accept Rosetta. However, understanding something with your head and accepting it with your heart are two completely different things. Alicia was still too young to understand the situation. When her father and brother saw the child, they immediately remembered what Lillian had gone through. To ease the grief of loss, they threw themselves into work so as to never see each other again. They were afraid of this because they blamed her for all the troubles, and to plunge head over heels into business and avoid her in every possible way was the only solution. Unfortunately, their behavior only brought more suffering to Alicia, who was almost always alone. Kate constantly asked them not to talk about what was happening in the room during their lessons. She manipulated them. Ladies are bound to be punished for their mistakes, so it's best not to bother adults with stories. They have their own worries. It was unclear what Demian had been doing all this time, but there were more than enough reasons for the awkwardness between them. Even though Valentine is the daughter of the woman who killed Lillian, he promised to take care of her, accepting her as part of the family. The man wants to leave everything as it is. There are so many things to think about that he can't even fall asleep, despite the fact that it's already night. First, they need to figure out how to get rid of Katie, while Damien is still at the estate and hasn't left. They have one last chance. Only he and the Duke are capable of driving her out. She herself will continue to interfere, so it is imperative to take advantage of the opportunity. There is one more thing that needs to be cleared up. The girl still remembers feeling the power when she grabbed the nanny's hand. The beauty really feels something strange, so familiar, yet so distant. She is much more powerful than it seemed. Folding her hands into an inverted triangle, The beauty understands that something is flowing through her veins, something very familiar to her, passing through the body similar to current and hidden deep inside it, is in the hands. The beauty realized that the source that she had already used in her second reincarnation had manifested itself again. This is happening for the first time. The girl does not understand how to cope with it. For some reason, the ability that she had in her past life flows through her. It is frightening. No matter how much the lady tried, everything started over again. If she had kept her strength, the little girl would never have found herself in that desperate situation as in her third life. Rosetta's body is quite weak, so it will probably not be possible to reveal her full potential, but now she will be able to stand up for herself. Valentine doesn't plan on using Kai at every opportunity, but it will make things a lot more peaceful. A sharp cough, a scarlet stain of blood remained on the palm of the hand. Strange, this has never happened before. Something like this should happen when a character's fate changes, or when there is a huge shock. The power is unstable. The lady could not calm her feelings and used it, allowing rage to control her thoughts later. Sitting down at the table, the blonde writes a letter. It is clear to her what Katie is capable of. It remains to be seen what will happen next. If you have power, you need to learn how to control it correctly. You don't want to accidentally become a cruel killer. Ideally, it would be necessary for Demian to personally witness the assault, but for that, it would be impossible to do without an assistant. The man will bring Valentine Sr. at the right moment. There is already a wonderful candidate in his head. Marie Rosetta's personal maid and the nanny's direct subordinate enters the room and asks what is needed. Smiling slightly, the main character asks to fill the bath. Her expression is strange. Something is wrong, but she just nods. Her hands are shaking a little. It's not clear what has changed. The lady never took a bath after lessons with Katie. The girl shocks again by asking for help to bathe. She explains that her debut is coming soon, so the procedures will be exactly the same as for all the other nobles. The woman does not want to do this if she helps. She will see countless scars on the body. Then Marie will have only one option: to report everything to the Duke or the young master. She will also receive punishment along with Katie, and if nothing happens, it will only be worse because of the nanny for reporting her pranks. The scars must never be seen. The girl stutters, explaining that it is too early for her to do this. She will ask permission later and help another time. Of course that's what they'll do. It's better not to do anything without Katie nodding. The girl, nevertheless, begins to undress, demonstratively throwing off her clothes. The heroine sees Marie covering her face with her hands, screaming and asking what is happening. Ordering to look carefully, Rosetta smiles. All the wounds are only the fault of the maid, it is worth remembering. Marie shouldn't think she could get away with it that easily. She couldn't help but understand what the consequences would be. The woman grabs her chin, asking how much Katie paid. It must be a lot, since the girl is willing to risk her life. Now it's clear that Rosetta came here to give a last chance to save herself. But the maid realized it was too late. The blonde has been working in this house for 7 years now, and has been watching over one of Duke Valentine's daughters for the same amount of time. The eyes look crazy. These scars on the body appeared just in the last 7 years. Marie's greed and concealment of the truth led to such consequences. Surely now a woman must be proud of herself. The beauty begs to spare herself, otherwise she will definitely die. The lady squeezes her hand tighter on her neck, asking what will happen to her for this. Marie promises that she will do whatever she is ordered to do. It's worth remembering that it's not Katie who will decide fate, but the Valentine family, so it makes perfect sense for her. Standing in front of the window, the blonde watches the drops flow down the glass. Everything will be fine, if not she wouldn't even act. Today the maid will betray the woman she has served for 7 years, so she is wary of her new mistress. Overall, this is no longer one of the girl's problems. The maid should have thought about the consequences of her actions earlier. Rosetta came to her sister. She smiles, thinking that some important news has appeared. Before Katie's lessons, the little girl is always lonely. She has to fight her anxiety alone. She constantly thinks about what will happen next. The excitement reaches the point where she can't even breathe without taking a sip of tea. The girl chuckles, asking if Alicia is afraid of the dark. The beauty is not so shivering. Everything is fine. Opening the door to the wardrobe, the girl looks around. The sister asked if Rosetta wanted to take one dress from her. She just decided to agree. It would only make the situation easier. The lady promises to definitely choose something beautiful. A delicate shade will suit her hair. The door suddenly closes, the blonde grabs the handle, but it doesn't budge at all. It becomes clear that she was locked in the wardrobe. Alicia begs her to let her out, slamming her hands against the wall, but only hears a promise that she will definitely be let out as soon as the lesson is over. It's better to wait and not cry. Everything will be fine. A moment pops into my head when the lady repeatedly wanted to accept punishment for her sister. The lesson will start in 10 minutes. She has thought of something again, and will try to change the outcome of events. The blonde moves forward. The realization has long since come that today the relationship will be ruined completely. In the original plot, when the bullying of Alicia was discovered, the Duke and Damien immediately returned to the estate. The two realized that the girl was suffering in their absence, so they promised not to allow such things to happen again and stayed by her side. Once the family began to care for the lady, she began to care for the others, but Rosetta was forgotten by everyone. The older sister promises herself that she will be able to distance herself from the younger one as she wanted, and that she will only be able to live peacefully alone. Katie waits in the room. She holds back her emotions. She will not dare to make a laughing stock of herself again. If a girl wants to put her charge in her place, she needs to break the leg that was used to step on her, forcing her to remain without will. Rosetta meets the nanny. She smiles, but she doesn't understand why Alicia is not there. The lady won't be there because she's not feeling well. Now the heroine understands that this is true. Next time she will be present. The woman turns to Rosetta. She doesn't know what is planned this time, but resistance is definitely useless. No matter how much she tries to help her sister, nothing will come of it. The Duchess will never be a real part of the family. She is always an imposter brought in by a traitor. The real Valentine would have burst into tears. But unfortunately for Katie, it wasn't her in front of her now, but someone who didn't even remember her real name. Although the girl will not be able to be true in the family, the nanny will not be better than her. The brunette will be able to drag the woman with her into the pit. The blonde has already done a lot of things lately, but this will never compare. Rosetta might just be thrown out, but the maid will be left to rot in prison for raping the real Valentine. Katie can't take it anymore. She slaps him across the cheek, screaming, "How dare she behave like that?" The blonde chuckles. It's better not to hit places that are in plain sight. The consequences will find themselves. The brunette laughs. What consequences is Rosetta talking about when no one needs her? The family despises her like no one else. There was a scratch on his face from the last time several weeks had passed, but no one asked where the wound came from. Knowing your place is important, no matter how good a sister she is. Alicia won't be able to change anything. The woman will forever remain a dirty half-breed. The blonde's confidence is still frightening. They will see who is right. Breaking the cup, the main character falls to the floor and begins to collect the fragments. Squeezing a piece, she sees how blood begins to ooze down her palm. The time has almost come. Rosetta does not rise. She hears footsteps outside the door and is glad that the plan is almost complete. The door swung open, and the young Duke stood on the threshold. He had been told that his sister had locked Alicia in the wardrobe. Looking around the room, the man sees a girl sitting on the floor with blood on her hand and a bright red color on her cheek. Instantly, the eyes become unusually angry. Screaming, young Damien orders to tell what is happening. Katie realizes that Rosetta set it all up, locked her sister somewhere, forced her to hit her and cut herself. The woman makes it look like she was ordered to do it, so she starts picking up the pieces. 13 years of effort are going down the drain. Her body is shaking with anger. She will never back down. Surrendering now is almost equivalent to death and first prison. Falling to her knees, the heroine screams about the misunderstanding. She also found out that Alicia was locked up, so she begged to free her. The maid explained that she had not listened anyway, and had even broken a cup, hitting herself in the face and cutting her hand for greater persuasiveness. What was said sounds true in Damien's eyes. It is Katie who is the authority, and his sister is just an eyesore. Unfortunately, this is not the first time something like this has happened to her. The woman chose the good option. All that remains is to wait for Damien's decision. Either he will believe his eyes or trust the maid. The brother opens his mouth to say something, but at that moment, Alicia runs through the door, looking extremely worried. The girl doesn't understand what the blonde is doing here. Tears have accumulated in her eyes. It seems like she's on the edge. Instead of running to her brother, the maiden embraces Rosetta, knocking her off her feet onto the sofa. Katie looks like she is worried. She reaches out to the lady, asking if she is okay. Fortunately, everything will be fine now. The girl doesn't pay attention. She noticed blood on her sister's hands and gasped in horror. It all happened because of Alicia. It's quite difficult to find the words. It seems as if everything is mixed into one indistinct heap. My head is like cotton wool. Damien approaches, asking if it is true that the nanny tried to convince Rosetta to let her sister go and forced her to let her go from the dressing room. The blonde exhales. It is unlikely that the girl will be able to tell the truth. She has been under pressure for many years. It is no wonder that she has an injury. Katie understands that the beauty is afraid to be near her, so she chose this strategy. The blonde gets up from the sofa, but someone stops her by the hand. There is no need to force yourself or jump above your head. Without listening, the heroine decides to go against the grain. For the first time, she looks into her brother's eyes, telling him that everything was a little different. The nanny freezes in horror and begins to scream, but no one listens to her. The girl has been torturing the Duke's daughters for many years. It is the maid who is the villain, while Rosetta just wanted to help. There are still scars on the body that will only show the truth. They are again trying to hide it, assuring that it is a lie. All this makes you interrupt. The beauty can't take it anymore. The nanny did something stupid. Now she'll get what she deserves. The girl couldn't tell the truth because she was constantly afraid. But because of her, something terrible happened. Alicia fainted in the original story. It was exactly the same. She often lost consciousness under great stress. Damien sits down, examining his sister. Now he has even more reasons to choose his family, and not the impudent servant. A few minutes later, a squad of knights arrived. They grabbed the woman, and although she screamed that she was innocent, no one listened. The door closed, but before that, the beauty heard someone begging her to come later to talk about something important. The blonde asks her brother what happened. He saw a wound on her face. She needs to wait until the doctor comes. The doctor will come into the ladies' chambers a little later to help, but now it's better to take care of Alicia. The recent events have been too much for her. Already at the door, the beauty freezes, because the girl hears the word sorry. It means nothing. You need to either apologize normally or not do it at all. This concerns the question the girl asked earlier. The real Rosetta would never have answered that. It is necessary to at least sometimes correspond to the character of the original owner of the body. In the corridor, she is met by a maid. Marie reports that she managed to report to the Duke in time, so the situation turned out to be a win for them. After this, the woman returned to Mrs. Alicia, but she said that she would jump out of the window if she was not released, so they had to open it. This behavior is not typical of a beauty, but it turned out that way, so it's easier not to think about it. The doctor would come soon, and after changing her clothes, the lady went for an examination, where they bandaged her arm and put a plaster on it. The day was hard. There are several reasons why the beauty decided to stay and live in a new body. Firstly, Rosetta is not the main character. The second plan is much better. It became clear even in the past life. Initially, the girl was scared by the prospect of being a villain, but there will be no problems if you do not act according to the plot. Secondly, reincarnation consists of chance and risk like gambling without any limits, but in this world, everything will be simpler. Rosetta has money and looks next time. She might not be so lucky. The first reincarnation was normal, but the second and third were pure horror. As far as the lady remembers, the heroine didn't even communicate with Marie, her personal servant. In the past, surrounded by close friends or siblings, the Virgo could never relax being a fake. I always had to hide my own I in another personality, because everywhere there were those who knew. The girl had long forgotten who she really was. Maybe it was all a game, but the beauty tried. Rita also tried to become the one who would be received, but her mother suspected something and constantly accused her of a fake state. The dream is interrupted, and Alicia's face appears before my eyes, worriedly calling for her little sister. Everything is swimming before my eyes. It's difficult to speak, but the girl asks why they came to see her, and it turns out that the reason for everything is excitement. There was a grumbling coming from the room, so she got dressed and decided to go in, even though she knew that it was better not to do this without permission. It's hard to breathe. It's probably all because of the wounds. A fever has started. The blonde asked to call a doctor, because it will be better that way. Rosetta desperately grabs his hand, asking him not to leave her. She has lost control over herself, the last bit of herself. The lady is both Valentine and Rita. Everything is mixed up in her head. You have to ask how her sister got out of the cloakroom and why she came to the end of the lesson. It was impossible to understand how they managed to tell the truth about Katie when she was always afraid of everything and couldn't open her mouth an extra time. The sister defended the little girl, so she decided to pay her back, believing that it would be much better this way. It turned out that the lady had plucked up her courage. There were no more reasons for this. There were tears in her eyes. She tries to breathe, cringing, while the main character worries even more, asking if everything is okay. Alicia in the original story was sweet and strong-willed until her soul was broken, then only tears remained forever. Even in her weak state, she threatened to jump out of the window if she didn't come out of the dressing room, all to help Rosetta. She gave her sister a reason to show kindness and help, and she in turn gave her the maturity to act. Valentine changed, destroying her cage on her own and breaking all the chains on her chest, becoming stronger. The thought flashed through my mind. What would have happened if in the past, someone had pushed Rita, forcing her to become better? Everything was clear from the first seconds in this world. Rosetta simply could not watch how her sister was crushed by her feelings. She might have wanted to deny reality at first, but the truth was that she would never let her sister go through the same hell that Rita herself had gone through in the past. Life, suffering, and death. The blonde is no longer afraid of anything. She couldn't just look at someone who looked so much like the old version of the heroine. It's a pity that it turned out this way. The girl hugs the beauty. She will not let her become worse, or she will experience all the pain. She will definitely protect Alicia. She is the one who can still be saved. It will happen. Again, the lady is haunted by the image of Rita. She is like a ghost, following her on her heels. She will also be saved. Fortunately, she will not have to suffer anymore after everything that happened. Looking ahead, not at this image, the lady promises herself that she will never allow her little sister to become the main character, because she in fact deserves much better. The next morning came. The lady exhaled. She did not understand what she had done. She hugged Alicia and cried, probably from a fever. She had completely gone crazy, not thinking about anything else. Come to think of it, the blonde hadn't cried in front of other people for quite some time, which made her feel more helpless in reality. There is no point in remembering the shame. The past cannot be changed, but the future is still in the girl's hands. Taking up paper, she begins to write, "Don't let Alicia become the main character." All this is the name of a grand plan that the lady will now act upon. The plan will not allow the maiden to go astray and become the happiest. Leo and the main character first met at the funeral of the Cart family. Then the man became interested in her. With each meeting, he loved her more and more. Due to the death of his father, the boy became a duke at too young an age, and this was one of the reasons for his unhealthy obsession. Everything moved at too fast a pace. His undisguised interest in the Duchess weighed heavily on her, and it was not something she could easily get rid of. Unfortunately, it was true. There were two reasons for that. The first is Alicia's character, and the second is Leo's title, which is due to the fact that there are three main duchies: Valentine, Fria, and Carter. They are the guardians of magic, divine will, and the sword, the three pillars that support the calm empire, while at the same time they share equal powers and duties to protect. The red-haired one found himself in this union in the field of Duke Carter, and was the only one who received his title at such a young age. This had never happened before. There is nothing surprising in the union of the princess of one family and the head of another. But usually modest Alicia suddenly rejects the confession because she believes that she does not need it at all. At first, a little surprised, the man decided not to lose heart. Leo always knew how to control his beloved, with the help of her weaknesses, a cocktail of obsession, problems within the family, and general political instability mixed together. All these factors made the girl an obedient puppet. At first, everything was not so bad, but at the end of the novel, the young man wanted to get the lady at any cost. This is the most important thing for him. The guy decided to destroy the Valentine family at the end of the novel. The family was dead as planned. Only the beloved survived, and so he got her forever. Rosetta exhales. Her eyes narrowed with anger. Again, nothing but problems. All that remains is to wait for the Carter family's funeral. We need to figure out what to do next, although it's a bit difficult. The blonde thinks that maybe she shouldn't go there yet. It's a pity that this method won't help. They will still meet either at the coming-of-age ceremony or on the hunt. All adult nobles are required to attend social events. The only good thing is that there is still time to spare. which means it will be possible to develop a better plan. The obvious option is the disappearance of the main character. If the man is gone, then the events of the story may not happen. Then the sister will be safe. This is exactly what is needed. Still, even in this case, the future will not be the best option in the current state. It will be difficult to get close to him to kill, and although there is a chance the risk is too great, if Rosetta can handle it, then there will always be an escape to another world, and Alicia's family can avoid the consequences. It looks like that's the best thing. The advantage is that even after death, the power will remain with her, which means the next life will not be so bad. The girl finally has another option. Someone else might well get the title of Duke. Then Leo would lose the spotlight, his strongest weapon, which is always used in such a case. The realization comes to mind in time. The man just has a younger brother, Cassian. It was at his funeral that the main characters met. He died shortly before the beginning of the story. The guy is a supporting villain who died almost immediately. Half-brothers, Leo and Cassian, are both villains, which is a little ironic. The fate of the younger one was much worse. After this, they decided to kill the brunette. They made an attempt on his life, but he managed to escape and dreamed of revenge. Unfortunately, at the end of the book, his older brother finished what he could not do the first time. It's ironic that Cassian's funeral was held while he was still alive. No one knew about it, even though his family had failed in the assassination attempt. They simply buried an empty coffin to show other people their tragedy. After his real death, there was not even a grave left of him. He was a lonely poor villain. Leo arranged an accident with a carriage, which almost took his life. The brunette had to hide constantly for the rest of his life in order to make him an ally. You need to meet him before he starts hiding, because then there will be no chance. The woman is going to think of a plan this time in more detail once she finally got to this important thing. There are still questions about how to meet him and how to lure him to the side of good. About 3 days have passed. The Duchy's carriage is heading forward along the road with Valentine in it, who decided that she should arrive at the place on time. The girl hasn't been outside for a long time. She understands that the sun is too unusual for her. She wishes that in her past life she had more time and freedom to be outside. In the past, the lady had only one thought she thought when she looked, listened, felt asking, "When will all this finally end?" Now there is something new in the feelings. It was hard after a long life in confinement, but at some point the lady finally got tired and got used to the dampness and darkness of the cell. I wonder how quickly she will get tired of living in luxury. The coachman distracts the lady from her thoughts. Asking how she feels, she asks how much longer it will take to go. It turns out that the carriage will soon be there near the cliff. It is today that the carriage with Cassian falls off the cliff. The blonde gets out, but the coachman asks that they not stay here for long for some reason. There is some reason. The sun will soon set, the mountains become too dangerous. With the onset of darkness, they do not have much time, and before that, they still need to get to the city and then to the estate. The woman thought about it too late. She should have taken at least one knight with her, but she wasn't worried no one would attack them when they saw the color of Valentine's eyes. The family from which the heroine comes is a family of warriors who are excellent swordsmen, and this does not depend on gender, since it flows through the veins of every born person. According to Rosetta's memories, she and her sister were taught fencing at a decent level. Although she may seem weak in appearance, since her physique is not very good, the girl will be able to protect herself in any case. Everything will be fine. Damien wanted to give the Duchess a knight, but she refused, although this was rather for a slightly different reason. A few hours before this, the beauty said that she wanted to calm her thoughts. It was difficult for her to be in the place where Katie's lessons took place. The man seemed to understand everything. The reason for refusing the escort was simple. The maiden did not need extra witnesses. Even the fact that she was on the cliff should be a secret that would remain forever. If the brother knew why the heroine came to this place, he would definitely send a knight. The girl promises that after she watches the sunset, they will go back. Damien will probably think that his sister will quickly return after she walks around the area a little. Now we need to follow the plot of the book. 19-year-old Cassian, a week before graduation from his academy, falls off a cliff almost to his death. The sun has almost set. The lady looks around worriedly. This should not be different from the original, but for some reason there is no carriage. The beauty goes back to the coachman, quietly saying, "Boo!" The man fell to the ground faster than he could ask any question. Magic from a past life was used on him in the original Cassian, and Rosetta were not connected in any way. They both didn't have much contact with the high society, so they didn't even have the opportunity to meet. It's a pity, but it won't be possible to come to an agreement if the girl doesn't want to see him, specifically. That's the problem, because the heroine has no idea how to say that the man will have to become a duke. The Carter family can't let word of Valentine helping the boy out until Cassian is duke, so there's only one chance: to meet him without unnecessary publicity and make him accept the terms something good is needed. And there is no better chance than right after the accident. Finally, the beauty sees a carriage rushing forward. It falls down, and the lady sees the coachman, who jumped off a second before the fall. He looks scared. Killing someone is not like going mushroom pickings. The man deliberately drove the carriage into the cliff. His task was to kill the guy, and the order was given to him by the Duchess of Carter and her son Leo shortly before the incident. The youngest son has no biological mother, no means or influence. He doesn't even possess the magic inherent to his family. The guy born among magicians is so helpless. It's even ironic. Even the Duke was ashamed of his son, and if his own father abandoned him, then no one else needed him. The treacherous brother and stepmother took advantage of the situation, so they constantly mocked him. It all ended with an assassination attempt, so that the title would definitely go to the eldest. Now the coachman disappeared. It was time to go down. The beauty, with the help of magic, found herself at the foot of the cliff. Blood came out of her mouth for a second. Her body still couldn't adapt to the force. But the girl noticed that she felt better, and this definitely couldn't help but make her happy. A carriage is visible ahead. A brunette is crawling out of it, coughing up a scarlet liquid, begging for at least someone to help him. The fragile shell is about to collapse. The arriving voice is begging for help. When the cart failed to take a sharp turn, the horses neighed, and the end came, knocking on the window to ask for something to be done. The villain saw the face of a man who peered in fear. Even then, it was clear whose handiwork this was. Again, they acted according to the script, getting out. The hero feels how the strength leaves his body. The only thought spinning in his head is, "Am I really going to die here?" This was definitely not an accident. What happened was the work of his brother and stepmother. All this time, they exposed the young man to danger. The bones were broken many times. Life was constantly on the edge. They would push you down the stairs or try to drown you, and no one wanted to help. All the residents of the estate knew about what was happening, but simply kept silent. Everyone thought it was right to ignore, as if they had seen nothing and heard nothing. Even his own father was like that. He shouted that if his son had the strength, no one would dare touch him. The rough voice was cold, and the look always resembled poison getting under the skin and poisoning the blood. All my life, I heard only curses, not the best. Even though he needed to get used to it, the young man never managed to do so. These words hurt much more than fractures, as if he was thrown into a cold pond every time in the middle of winter. Sometimes the brunette asked why he needed life at all, if in the end no one needed him. He just wanted to find happiness and confidence in a peaceful tomorrow. Since then, the hero had to constantly live on guard. No one in the estate trusted him. Just as he trusted them, even with food, he had to be extremely careful. Every day, the situation became more like survival than a full-life hellish pain, and loneliness made me feel constantly broken. Even so, the hero wanted to live his life, as if he wanted to prove to someone that he was capable of enduring everything. Even now, lying on the cold ground and feeling the blood running down his forehead, he wants to survive. It hurts to know that everything will end exactly like this. No one will even remember that Cassian existed. A quiet voice calls for his mother. She died right after the baby was born, so he has nothing to remember about her. The young man missed her constantly, no matter what. He looked at the face that he had only seen in portraits. Maybe if she were alive, at least someone would be able to protect him. There are tears in his eyes. The only positive thing is that when he dies, the hero lights up the hope of seeing him in heaven. A figure is visible in the distance, and immediately the man starts calling for help. He seems to have already given up, but seeing the man, he helplessly wants to continue living, even if it is hell. The woman extends her hand, asks if the guy wants to live. If so, it would be best to promise him something. The voice and eyes seem unreal. Perhaps the man has started hallucinating. They say that there are creatures that bewitch people and then eat them with their beautiful faces and honeyed speeches. They do their job. It is still not clear whether it is a demon or a human. She promises to give salvation. In fact, at this stage, the young man doesn't care anymore. He promises that he will do everything because he agrees to any help. Whether they take his heart or he refuses death awaits him anyway. The brunette seemed to have passed out. The blonde was examining him. She didn't think that he would trust her so quickly. In any case, she didn't shortchange him using magic. The girl realized that she knew what to do next. She just needed to wait until the man woke up. Then the heroine would say something, asking him to take Cassian with her. Melvin opens his eyes. The first thing he sees is bright yellow eyes jumping up. He asks the lady what happened, because he doesn't understand anything. It doesn't matter now, because they have problems. The man looks around, freezing in horror. A terrible picture unfolds before him. A huge number of dead horses lying around in different directions. It seems the carriage was going too fast. He tried to go around the carriage, missed the turn, and that was the end of it. Unfortunately, it's terrible and nothing can be changed. The servant imagined this whole picture and felt ill. He was sent to check the situation because suddenly the man was still alive. But with the horses, the situation was much worse. Luckily, there is still a pulse. The beauty quietly asks how he is. The brunette says that he is alive, although he has a strange feeling of déjà vu about this. Melvin decides to ask the lady what they should do next. They can't leave the body. They will take it to the carriage and save it. The old man carefully places the brunette in the cart. Noticing that her friend was sweating, Rosetta hands him a handkerchief, for which she hears gratitude. What happened today must be kept a secret. The woman suggests not to tell anyone about their discovery. They are also a little guilty. He does not quite understand what the problem is. They were riding above. They did not even see the carriage. The blonde has a different opinion. After all, they did not warn the stranger when the horse rushed straight into the cliff. It is considered that it is their fault, and although the heroine is not affected by this, the same cannot be said about the man. The subordinate freezes in horror when he is told about the fact that, after what happened, he could very well lose his job, and even the Duke himself will not be able to help. The brunette begins to realize that the lady is right. It looks like they were just standing aside while the poor guy galloped towards the cliff that was known about in advance. The carriage needed to be moved out of the way, but the hero accidentally fell asleep. The lady continues to press until the end. There will be a lot of layoffs of servants right now. She accidentally found out about it. As far as she knew, this would happen in the coming days. But she would not want to lose such a good coachman as the man standing in front of her. She had already gotten used to him, considering him a good person. The girl hopes that he will be able to work for the benefit of their family for a very long time. But now it is better to keep everything a secret. Of course, she is even right in this, no doubt. Stepping back into the carriage, the lady nods. They will not abandon a helpless young man who needs their support. And more, the woman will take good care of him. The lady asks, not to worry. She will ask the brunette to forget about what happened today. As soon as he wakes up, she herself suddenly decided to come here, so it would be better to do so. The blonde quietly asks, not to tell anyone. This is the last warning she gives. It's better to pretend that they weren't here. After walking around the garden, the carriage will go back to the place from which it came. They will pretend that they have never been to the mountains. The man is in tears. There is no other nobleman who would act in this way for the sake of the coachman. The lady didn't accuse him of anything and even helps him keep his job. The brunette nods actively, promising to take the secret and hide it forever. It's good that everything ended this way. While they are riding in the carriage, the beauty looks closely at the man. It seems that he is still sleeping like a log. He was close to death. In general, his condition can be understood. It is better for no one to see the red eyes, which mean only one thing: that the man is from the Carter family. Looking out the window, the blonde checks whether they have arrived at the place. The carriage moves towards the Reddington guest house. The sign at the entrance glows with magical light, using stones, an extremely luxurious establishment of the Duke of Valentine, only for special ones. The princesses met at the entrance, carefully looking around. The maiden talks about the young man who is lying inside the carriage. It will be necessary to carefully carry him to the castle, so that no one sees. The most important thing is not to remove the bandage from the face. The main thing is to do everything as discreetly as possible. Inside, the lady is met and offered to go to the VIP room on the 5th floor. Turning around, the blonde sees a woman in front of her. No one except the Duchess and her companion is allowed there. Security will be at the highest level, so you can feel at home. As the girl knows, or rather remembers from the book, looking for a reason to meet Alicia without her knowledge, the main character stopped at this guest house to take shelter from the pouring rain. He got the same room on the 5th floor, and the escort said the same thing as the lady: if nothing changed, it would be scary to stay here. The blonde calmly turns to the one standing next to her, asking if the lady has ever seen a comet against the backdrop of a blue moon. The interlocutor chuckles, apparently wanting to enjoy the wonderful view. Opening the painting, which she carefully touches with 2 fingers, the lady asks whether to open the passage or call the person here. The blonde rises. It seems that the hero she needs is already nearby. The heroine smiles, pretending not to understand what is being discussed at all, but the Duchess knows what is what. In fact, she doesn't care. There is something else now, perhaps more important. The woman asks what she should do: bring the hostess here or take the guest to her. Cassian should already be inside. I wonder if he hasn't woken up yet or is already okay. The heroine promises herself that after meeting Blanca, she will immediately go to him. A voice is heard from behind. I wonder if the Duchess found something to do while she was waiting. The owner of that very guest house is standing on the threshold. Madam is smiling. The voice is strange, which gives rise to some doubts. It is not immediately clear that this is the same person as that maid. She hopes that her presence will not disturb anyone. Blanca is one of the most important characters in the book, the head of an imperial top-secret organization. With her help, it is possible to get anything, any object and any knowledge, even secrets. Everything was in her hands. In the original, Leo often visited her, and Blanca treated him in a special way. The reason for this is quite simple. Carter Sr. is quite an interesting person. It is even impossible to imagine what exactly the woman was interested in him. There are too many options. The heroine is described as a gambling person. The girl does not know how Leo attracted her attention in the original, but getting interest is worth a lot. Many future affairs will be connected with her, and it will be to her advantage if she treats the Duchess in a special way. Her gaze is fixed on the mug. She is crazy about the color, blue, and the veil, and the mug. Everything is the same. The blonde decides to stop thinking she needs help, and that's what she turns to, as long as it doesn't threaten her life or anyone else's. Blanca promises to do everything possible. The girl chuckles. She thought that the one sitting next to her was afraid of death. It was less so, but she is not getting any younger. Dying now would be too boring. She has a lot of unfinished business. The tea seemed to be to his taste, very different from how unpresentable it looks. The woman looks with a concentrated gaze. It's better to get down to business and not put it off for too long. The blonde nods. She says that she needs a magical item that can completely change her face. She wants someone to get her one in a short time. She asks for forgiveness. Unfortunately, I have never heard it. And even if Blanca does not know, then they do not exist. There is no confidence in the words. The girl is most interested in other details. You can't argue with that. In return, the lady can offer something that will change the color of her hair or eyes. She won't raise the price. For a second, the beauty thinks she is not sure if this is enough. At least this is needed if she wants to deceive the Carter family. She agrees to buy. They will use it when they go out in public. Blanca nods, and out of politeness asks if she wants to buy something else. Of course she wants to. She has many more options and things that she might need. To begin with, the heroine asked to find something. The Reddingtons' guest house plunged into darkness. The meeting was over. In such boring times, interesting people are sure to appear. Remembering the special words, the lady did not understand whether it was a bluff or whether the Duchess really knew. Maybe she just needed to ask about the true identity. It would be easier for everyone. A man appeared behind her and asked if the lady was having fun. Everything was clear to the girl, and the conversation with the princess was so interesting that it was still impossible to forget. The man realizes that he said too much and immediately freezes in horror. Smoke is blown into his face. The woman asks him to be more careful. Logan must filter his speech. Blanca has repeatedly said not to mention information about clients out loud. The girl hates stupid people. She is in a good mood now. But in the future, it is better to be more careful. The children grow up too fast. The man doesn't understand what's going on, but simply agrees with the situation. The client's order has already been given. Everything has been duly paid for with jewelry. The situation still seems interesting. The blondes seem to be prepared in advance. It is a coincidence or fate. It is difficult to say, and think about it. The lady is not going to. The main character goes down the stairs. It smells of blood and medicine. As if instead of a room, the woman entered a dungeon or a hospital ward. Cassian's expression is peaceful and calm, but it seems like something terrible is happening inside his dream. He raises his hands up, begging to be saved quickly. No matter how much the brunette calls for help, he can't make a sound underwater. This is a problem, and a big one at that. The man is pulled deeper and deeper down. The hero sees nothing. He has nothing to breathe, then someone's voice is heard. It seems to be fogged up but can still be heard in the background. Carter is asked to wake up. Eyes opened gaze darting around the room until it focused on a beautiful woman, long silver hair, pale face, and golden eyes. This is not a monster, after all. Realizing that they want to ask her, she immediately says the name. Rosetta, leaning closer, the woman congratulates Cassian on the fact that he managed to survive despite everything. There could be better words for this, but there was no choice left. Someone cheated fate and was born again. Feelings were mixed up inside. The girl smiles easily, asking if everything is okay. She is really interested in the patient's well-being, which somehow depends. This is the most important thing at the moment. Realizing that there is silence in the room, the beauty reaches out to touch her face. The brunette pushes the woman away, desperately screaming that he should not be touched. The hero looks quite strange, which raises even more questions, as if he is very afraid of something he asks where they are. Judging by the eyes of the person sitting next to him, who was from the Valentine family, only they have such a rare color, it became clear that he simply lost his memory of what happened. The man is right, it seems. His eyesight is normal, this cannot. But please, he then asks. He is interested in whether he was kidnapped and forced against his will to be in this place that looks like a basement. The young man himself begged for help, but in the end, he doesn't remember anything. The incident with the carriage brought him to reality. The hero freezes. It's good that he knows at least about this. The heroine saved him. Apparently, this was also forgotten in the original story. Cassian was an extremely vigilant person. He had to become exactly like this. There was no other way out all his life. He was surrounded by enemies, but he was able to open his heart to his savior when he was on the edge. The girl makes a sad face. Of course it's all pretense. It's a pity because she brought him and tried to cure him, doing everything as needed. It turned out that the heroine did a lot of things. The question, why, is like a bolt from the blue. There is no answer to it. It's all because she needs the young man. It's hard to believe, but the beauty needs him more than anyone else. It's true. She needs a man who will become the Duke instead of Leo at the mention of his brother. The brunette freezes in horror, but the lady continues. She will make him the new ruler of her lands. I want the man to become an ally, but he refuses. His hands are shaking, which seems even stranger. He looks into Rosetta's features. It is known that she is Valentine's illegitimate daughter. The girl generally understands the confusion and questions that arise in the head. The man did not even dare to think about anything extra, not to mention planning it. He just thought about surviving. To survive at any cost is the true goal. No matter what happens, he must live. Only now comes the realization that the hero never thought about what could happen. Perhaps he had too many questions about what to do next. He always believed that, by the mere fact of his existence, he would be able to take revenge on Leo and his mother, because in general, he was not capable of much. The only thing he could do was resist, and even that not very much. Something had to happen next. It's not clear how it would continue spending your whole life hiding your identity. And fighting is not what you would want. Obviously, Valentine wants to lure into his trap, because ultimately, becoming a duke is an unrealistic task. They want to use the brunette to resolve the Carter family. The girl doesn't understand what is being discussed so far. She remains skeptical, shouting all sorts of nonsense here. The boy remains pathetic and shows himself from an even stranger side. It's even a bit embarrassing for Cassian, but it's worth giving him credit for softening the situation. He has a good imagination. Since the man doesn't believe he can see what he wants, the lady is still not going to say anything more. In any case, she needs the brunette, because the goal of making him the head remains a reality. Then he himself has the right to decide what to do next. She cannot force him. That's enough for today, though you can't put pressure on a wounded man. The girl promises that she'll arrive tomorrow at dawn. There's no point in worrying until then. The blonde asks once again to think it over carefully, and most importantly, not to perceive it as something bad completely wrong. They will see each other again tomorrow. The man asked not to leave, but when he was left alone, he noticed a cape on the wall and ran away. The lady was watching him from the window. She already knew that Cassian would try to escape at the first opportunity. From his side, the lady looked extremely suspicious. It is not surprising that after this, he decided to run away at any cost, because he had every reason to do so. Knowing this, the woman, being prudent, left a cloak so that he could hide his identity on the streets. Since he wanted to play hide-and-seek, so be it. There was no choice left. The lady needs a man, which means she won't let him go. She needs a man who will replace Leo as the Duke, and thus save herself and Alicia. Thoughts were mixed up in his head. It seemed like the lady really saved the hero, but he didn't understand what she was going to do. He had managed to get burned many times because of trusting people, so this time everything would be different. The maid, he believed, poisoned his tea. The caring butler tried to throw him down the stairs, and even his own father, due to his son's lack of strength, turned away from him. To tell the truth, the young man thinks that the girl will also use him and throw him away as an unnecessary thing. He is tired. Leo and his stepmother have squeezed out all the juices. He does not want to let her be so weak that she will be torn to pieces. The man is grateful for the rescue, and in gratitude when he returns, he will definitely do something and repay, thus paying off. The thoughts made him stop. He didn't think about what it was like to return to a house that was so similar to hell, which opened up to another world. He needed to do something else. I would like to run, but it is worth remembering that Cassian has no other place, which makes me upset. The feeling of resentment is incredibly disgusting, sticky. Ahead, the young man came across two strangers, who immediately started shouting, asking where he was going. Thank God his face was not visible, which was a big plus. The young man asks who is in front of him, asking to be shown his facial expression. He is very drunk, so there is no point in dealing with him. Unfortunately, this is true. Grabbing the shoulder to stop the man, he shouts again, this time, asking if he is respected. A bottle of alcohol accidentally breaks. It's terrible. Another man reassures his friend. He is just a kid, not worth anything. The brunette did not answer, because important things came up. He speaks like an aristocrat. This stirs up interest. There is one rule in the alleys. If someone wants to have fun, they have to pay. Poor people like them. No one has a choice but to not come. The Duke grabbed his hand. He still doesn't feel so good, but they are both drunk. It's quite possible to handle too. The man decides to move forward gradually. The young man wanted to run away after he had done what was in his power. Two more came out from around the corner and were immediately ordered to grab the offspring of blue bloods. They have to run. The chase begins. Menacing voices are heard behind them, threatening that if they catch the man, he will make it so that they will not be able to escape. It sounds plausible. Hiding around the corner, the brunette caught his breath and was about to move on when those same people appeared in front of him. They surrounded him from all sides. It seemed the gentleman would have to introduce himself. The hand suddenly reaches for the hood to reveal the precious face. Let them beat him half to death. But the face must not be shown under any circumstances, otherwise it will be much worse. This realization is scary. A voice is heard from behind. A soft timbre drags you away. A woman asks if Cassian has escaped to suffer. Now she is on the roof, so people did not immediately find her. Rosetta smiles, even in the darkness. Her face is snow white, on which golden eyes shine. She asks if this time the man will ask for help again. The beautiful face and voice seem to enchant and captivate, at the same time the voice more insistent, when Valentine asks again if the young man wants to receive help again. Those gathered below call the girl to them, assuming that they can have a little fun. It seems that the two are familiar, that Blonde will probably come down when she sees how her friend becomes a helpless mess. It is difficult to guess what exactly the handsome man is thinking about, but he continues to remain silent without changing anything the woman has lost. There is no choice left, she admits. The beauty descends down very easily, effortlessly, promising that this time she will also provide assistance, so you need to remember all the movements. The poor people don't understand how the girl got down and didn't crash. Something is wrong with her. Obviously, she really is a magician, but now she's smiling, looking sweetly into the eyes. She has a strategy. The hero smiled back, becoming embarrassed and losing his composure. He realized that this was the end. His hand met his chin, causing him to fall to the ground after all fighting, while in another person's body was a little painful. When the maiden used the power in her second life, she was a demigod possessing and using energy beyond human capabilities, and trying to use it in the body of another are two different things. They distract her from her thoughts, because they shout, asking why she is behaving this way. She will have to defend herself, because everyone is going to attack doing it on the sly. The blonde effortlessly hits one opponent, then the second and the third. They will not be able to win even with great efforts and desires. A second later, the boys were lying on the ground and groaning in pain. The woman shook off her dress, turning to the voice asking who she was. The Duke was in shock, calmly answering, "I'm Rosetta Valentine." The heroine asks how many more times she'll have to repeat it, and for a moment a smile appears on the brunette's face. If only the man knew that his new acquaintance had such great power, he would have immediately asked for help and not stood aside. Now it is clear what the reason was. Carter thought the princess was weak, so he left her aside so she wouldn't accidentally get hurt. If one victim was enough, he didn't want to expose another. A man like Cassian can't be a villain. The girl seemed suspicious to him, so he had to run, and then he hid being without strength, even in this state, trying not to put Rosetta in danger. It's ironic, but the man is too caring for such a person as a villain. He used Alicia to get revenge on her brother. He was an unfortunate villain who ended up making her feel sorry for him. Unfortunately, the young man couldn't harm Leo, but as a result, he was killed twice by his relatives. He simply had no choice but to eventually give up because everything was over. The girl distracts herself from her thoughts. She picks up a piece of wood from the floor and points to her stomach. She believes that it is in this place that the most terrible wounds are, which she was immediately able to notice. The man steps back. He doesn't understand what the beauty is up to. This left him with mixed feelings. He ran away when he had time to think the lady won't tolerate this. He will have to make a choice right now. Either the hero will follow the lady, or a quick death awaits him. The maiden is not going to let go, alive the one who knows about her goal, but will not do it personally. It is enough to return Cassian to the state before healing and leave him where he was found. Then the culprits themselves will come and sort it out. The brunette himself understands that if he were alive, Leo would have killed him. There is truth in the words. It was just a perfect chance which does not compare to the incident on the stairs. The hero only wants to know why the lady thinks that everything was not an accident. The whole time he was talking to this girl, not once was the name of the Duchess and Leo mentioned, but Valentine, as if nothing had happened, says with confidence that she is the culprit of the carriage breakdown. The woman doesn't think it matters much now, but the other person thinks differently, and the answer will certainly influence him. And quite strongly. The main character exhales. Obviously, she has no choice. She knew it would be like this, and guessed that he would ask this question naturally. The excuse is prepared in advance. Seeing the face of the running coachman, the lady realized that this was not just an accident, and then she noticed a body lying on the ground in a puddle. At first, she wanted to pass by. She didn't want to interfere in the affairs of someone else's family, and didn't want to bring trouble upon herself. But Valentine herself was illegitimate, and had always been an outsider, and it seemed to her that Carter would be able to understand the feelings, because the situations were similar. The girl wanted the boy to stay alive. Such an excuse could explain the guess that it was not a simple accident, as well as the reason why she asked for the wish to be fulfilled. Virgo doesn't understand why she needs all this. She changed her mind. This lie should not be used to justify herself. During a conversation with Cassian, looking into his eyes, she didn't like that version. If he refused the offer, the lady would simply leave him. There is nothing wrong with telling the truth to a man who refuses to help, because of which he risks death. Before the beauty tells the truth, she wants to be promised something, because at the moment, this is the most important thing for her. The woman wants to be believed even though it will be difficult. There was no time to think. The young man was at his limit, just a little more. And his eyes would close on their own. Even at this moment, when death was so close, he did not want anyone else to squeeze their hands on his neck. Virgo exhales. He promises that he will believe if he has to take her side. He would like to do it of his own free will. She tells how the nanny abused her and her sister. And for a long time. One day, everything was too terrible. The heroine even lost consciousness and suddenly saw something, or rather learned something. I would like not to see that horror. But on the other hand, there are also advantages. The beauty learned that in the distant future, her dear sister would suffer precisely because of Leo, and both the man and the woman would eventually die like dogs, which was even worse. The brunette doesn't understand what is being discussed. The words seem too groundless to him. The girl nods. It's unlikely that they would trust her. It's better to say that it's not clear than to nod, and then stab her in the back. While the heroine was thinking, tears appeared in the young man's eyes. She doesn't understand what's happening. It seemed that he was calmer. In fact, the young man is sad. Even according to these unthinkable words, in the end, inevitable death awaits him. It is simply impossible to believe in what is happening. The words just spoken have no evidence, but despite everything, the expression, "to die like a miserable dog," can be heard very clearly in them. Now he seemed to understand that the girl knew in advance that such a misfortune would happen to the Duke. With the carriage, the woman came to help. For this very reason, wanted to offer to be together and change fate. The blonde didn't expect that the man wouldn't be able to remember who saved him. If these unthinkable words were true, then this was entirely understandable, as was the likelihood of the events that followed. These unexpected words so that the hero would remove Leo and become the Duke. The girl told the truth, but if he still does not believe, she raises her fingers in the air and swears that she will do everything possible to help Cassian. The woman will not leave him and will help him survive and become happy. If the lady breaks the oath, she promises that she will die the most terrible death and no one will even remember her. The harsher the words, the more likely it will become reality. Now it's time for the brunette to make his choice. I wonder what he will decide on because there are not so many options. The hero nods, he will believe, and said so in advance. Even if it will be quite difficult, it is unclear how Rosetta will make a duke out of a man, but he sincerely wants everything to work out. He will have to die, in any case. The man wants to at least try to do something, changing the course of events. The hero falls unconscious into his arms. It seems that he has become worse. The guy's heart just stopped, just like the book said. He fell asleep, looking at the red glow. The wind blew on his face, and his eyes closed on their own. The moment of his heart stopping was beautiful, but at the same time frightening. It's okay according to the plot. The organ will soon start clogging up again, starting to supply the body with blood. The source of mana is inside, so in any case it's real. Mages use mana, which comes from the heart, for their spells, and their abilities are determined by the strength of their use of mana and their degree of affinity with it. Therefore, it is easy for a magician to use his power he has acquired, and innate skills. Cassian had no power, and the use was closed. The man felt the power, but it did not flow through his body. He could not use it because he did not have such skills from the very beginning. It was not even assumed that he could become a magician. The reality was only half true, because there was mana inside him. This could only be learned by the reader on the pages of the book. The Duke's heart stopped, but it would take a little time before he woke up, and instead of blood-pure mana would flow in his heart. It was a kind of defensive reaction. In order to save the dying organism, the organ will begin to supply the organs with power instead of normal blood. Cassian did not suspect and did not know that this was so. He did not know that he could use abilities at the level of a genius. As the weak mana began to flow through his body, his powers would begin to manifest, and he would understand what was happening after everyone had left him. The man had turned into an engine. If you believe the novel, he will soon open his eyes, and finally, everything will wake up. It will become better. The flow of mana in his body is still unstable, so it will be difficult for him to become a great magician. The blonde will be able to solve this problem. He just needs to open his eyes. If he does, everything will work out, and then he will never have to worry again. Everything will be fine. It sounds funny, But the woman wasn't sure if he would open his eyes, even though what happened was described in the novel. But what if he just went and died in her arms without doing anything? The girl remembers very well how they begged her with tears in their eyes to help. Because it was something so important, the heroine tries to remember how to make artificial feeding. Bending down, she gently touches his lips, causing the man to open his eyes sharply and blush. And finally, the lady feels his warmth and pulse, which makes her smile. The first thing the lady did was go to Blanca. She smiled, asking what they would do without her realizing her superiority and the need of other people. You can leave the hotel in different states, but when you look at the state of a person with blood dripping off them, letting them in without asking questions becomes a difficult task. Nodding, the blonde agrees. If the woman hadn't discovered the two of them, there would have been big problems. Of course, she would thank her. That's the best thing. It seems as if the girl was following them. It's ironic, the appearance near the hotel right after the lady was there was quite unexpected. It happened by chance, the blonde, and the man, also in a cape, walked through the main entrance. It couldn't help but look strange from the outside. Then they were met by Blanca, who came out of the hotel. The woman sits on the bed, looking at her friend, lying there. While she followed him, she did not feel any surveillance, so now only more questions she wants to contact within orders. Nodding, the girl first, wants to pour some tea to soften the atmosphere. The Duchess probably doesn't know that after 3 orders, a person acquires the status of regular customer. Lady Rosetta has become someone at a high level in such a short time. This cannot. But please, the blonde chuckles. Maybe she should act even more decisively, even so as to surprise. Still, since she was asked about the request, the woman decided to tell she will try to make it so that it will not be boring until the very end of life. She freezes, not understanding what is leading to and why it was said. Now Blanca won't have to look for adventures, because the main character herself will provide them. This proposal was probably a mistake, but at least it seems that way from the outside. I should have bought a ring. It's funny. It's a pity they'll put it off until next time. The girl will buy a ring with a huge diamond and put it on her ring finger, showing her true intentions. All this is of course fascinating and cannot but sound good, but the finger already has an owner. And it is true, the lady shows her hand. She is already married. Although the partner died after that, the marriage ended. They didn't like each other, so not everything seemed so bad. The lady was most concerned about what the Duchess meant. She was simply bursting with curiosity about what that proposal was about. I just want to know the truth about whether the man lying on the bed is known to the mistress of the house. She nods, but assures that she has not checked the information about him. She just knows him by sight. Therefore, she is informed. The conversation will be much shorter. It's good that everything is going exactly this way. The lady knows that she wants to make the boy the new ruler of the Carterlands. For this, she will need help. Her order is connected with this. Leo will be overthrown, and the eldest son will become duke. Too much work for one task. Of course, that's clear, especially since Blanca doesn't really want anything to stand in her way. Naturally, the payment would be appropriate, so it would be possible to come to an agreement. Although Rosetta was an illegitimate daughter, but if you don't count the hostility of her relatives, she was treated exactly the same as Alicia. The drawers of the dressing table in the room were always full of jewelry, because she was provided with and allocated a sufficient amount of pocket money she would be able to pay, so that no one would think anything extra. She nods. It's not about origin. It's clear from Rosetta that she is a fairly rich lady in addition to her request to help make a duke out of her friend. There are many related tasks. Honestly, it would be inconvenient to consider each one as a separate order. The Virgo may have urgent chores, and paying each time will also be too much of a hassle. Blanca knows better what exactly may be needed. She is a so-called pro in this matter. This is how it should be. In short, the Duchess, sitting on the sofa, wants to completely rent the mistress of the house in order to make the brunette a full-fledged ruler, which he is not now. One might think that the Virgo wants to limit a person's freedom. Although this is not at all the case, she wants to call what is happening cooperation for the sake of achieving a common goal. The Virgo simply wanted to make an offer, although she does not want other orders to be cancelled. The woman can't hold back and starts laughing, although it seemed there was no reason for it. She warns that the price will be high, but still needs to be agreed. First, the lady wants to make an advance payment. There is a lot of money, but not as much as it seems. so the rest will come later if everything works out. They will take payment from the Duke too. Blanca laughed her fill. It seems like a blessing. The blonde asks if the answer has been found. This is quite an unusual and funny phenomenon. Besides, this has never happened before. She wants to think about the solution. You can do it this way. You need to come to a common agreement that will suit everyone first. Blanca will accept 2 or 3 orders from the girl, as from a regular client. She will think about further cooperation later. It feels like she is being tested. The offer is still not bad. She always passes exams, well, so everything should be in perfect order. Although you can't tell from the outside. The task will appear soon, but you will have to warn in advance. While the man lies here, the woman will remain nearby. It seems that the beauty really has a reason she is going to talk about something else. The brunette needs new documents, and there is another question about who the girl asked to check. Blanca chuckles. She did not say that her trusted person is already checking the necessary information, so everything will be fine. The heroine almost forgot that the beauty really did have such an assistant. The novel said that he was always close to his mistress and was unusually devoted to her. His name was Logan. Both Cassian and this man need false documents. They need to disguise them as employees of the Valentine family. They need to remain in the house without any problems. The blonde asks again if this is really true. She sincerely hopes that it is. She would like to receive payment for Blanca's services in diamonds. Only like that she doesn't need gold. Fortunately, unlike the Duchess, the ring finger of the girl's right hand was free. And finally the beauty realized that the conversation was over. She would like to sleep, rest was important. The woman looks at the brunette. She used all the medicines from the first aid kit. There is nothing left. The main character forgot to ask Blanca to prepare a new set of medicines. We had to hurry so much that now the girl was left with nothing. She will give the task to the worker and ask for a new first aid kit. The young man will give her everything she needs. The situation is still a little confusing. Too much had happened today. The Duchess had used a force that had not yet returned to normal, and then, with her body weak, she had to confront some poor people in a gateway. Since Rosetta found herself in the real life of a new reincarnation, the beauty has never had a good night's sleep. In the past, as Rita, she was also unable to rest normally. The girl was suddenly overcome with forgotten memories. Bernard looked straight into her soul, as if asking how Rosetta could forget what had been, how she could surrender herself to a new, happy present. After a while, the beauty woke up. She herself did not notice how she fell asleep. She needed to concentrate after a light course of treatment from a friend. The girl also went to sleep. But finally, looking around, the lady sees that she is covered with a blanket. But she does not understand why this happened. It seems that the man woke up and covered her so that she would not freeze. The girl gets up, taking the medicine. The man still doesn't move. It's obvious that he has too much pain in his body. It's impossible to fully cope with it. It's a pity that everything is exactly like this. The woman opens her shirt carefully, touching the body, which is quite good. She needs to find the edge of the bandage, but then her hand is grabbed. The brunette quietly asks her not to do this again. He woke up, and the lady knew about it. Her face turned red. The girl made excuses. Her eyes were closed, so she thought that everything was not at all as it seemed. You can't touch a sick person, but she just did it. The girl explains because she bandaged her chest in a hurry, so much that now she needs to redo it a little. The man extends his hand, offering to do everything himself, because it will be much easier for all of them. The heroine seems to nod, but does not give the bandages, asking why he pretended, since he actually got up. It seemed that the young man wanted something. It was quite difficult for him to explain what was what. Too many emotions were mixed up in his head, blushing. The hero says that he was kissed. That's all he wanted to say. It turned out that the main character was still conscious there. It was worth breathing air into him several times, and he immediately came to life. The maiden thought that she was a great healer. It turned out that all this was just a matter of luck. There is no mouth-to-mouth resuscitation in this world. And this guy who spent his entire life on a remote island most likely never touched his lips to another person. In that incomprehensible situation, he was lucky to be conscious. Now it seems that the shameless girl who for some reason tried to kiss him decided to turn the situation to her advantage. The Duchess wanted to save the young man. Her intentions were completely pure. Apparently, Cassian felt that his breath stopped, but he did not guess that they wished him well. The blonde has to explain everything in detail, that he died for a short time. His breathing stopped, so the beauty tried to inhale him. It is logical that she simply could not leave everything as it was. It is not clear what the brunette thought, but he was definitely wrong. Once again, the man is embarrassed this time from his stupidity, which means the lady thought he was embarrassed, because his explanations were imprecise. A dim memory of the first kiss, the girl thought that this is how Cassian explained everything she tries to bring her friend to emotion. Knowing that he will not be able to answer anything, he has no strength. The beauty carefully examines all the wounds they have healed. Without leaving a trace, it is impossible to even guess that there were cuts on this skin just a few hours ago. Fortunately, the girl is aware of all future events. The novel said that the rapid healing of the body only testified to the great magical energy in the body. The man asks why the beauty suddenly froze. Moments from the novel flashed before her eyes. In other words, mana began to circulate in Cassian's body. The heroine asks if he knows how many times he was saved today. Counting all the times, the young man quietly says, "Only 3 times." But the blonde shakes her head, because what was said is not true. The 3rd time the young man was saved, not by the lady. Her hand reaches for his chest. There was a heart beating under her palm. The girl felt it. And also something vague, she knew what this weak and new feeling was. Initially, there were worries that nothing would work out. But now everything seems to be fine. Mana is also called dungeon energy. Although the location of the heart magic and the methods of use were different, but there was the same aura in his body, and the method of use and control were the same. Perhaps for this reason, even this time, the lady was able to feel something important. Only the one who possesses the power of another can feel it. Rosetta's abilities went beyond the capabilities of this world. If a girl can feel something, then this can be done using the simplest and most reliable method. It is necessary to open his vessels, thereby helping to relax. The brunette doesn't understand how he can feel. He doesn't feel anything, so he asks to let go of his hand. The girl noticed that something is wrong here. The hero is too worried. He has a strange expression on his face. The beauty decided to help a little. She gently hugs the man, trying to calm him down even more, and gently stroking his back with her hand, forcing him to exhale. It seems that in the book, everything was not so serious. Perhaps a person begins to behave like a child when there is someone to rely on. There are a lot of clogged veins inside. There are places where mana flows, but there is not much of it, and the one that flows through empty passages disappears a little. The young man suddenly begins to whine. A movement of force began in the open passages, but it was still hard for him to stand. He pressed himself against the body of the beauty, realizing that this was the only person he could rely on now. If you think about it, it was even a little overdone. After the accident, the maiden climbed up the cliff with Cassian, and she pulled the horse out and left it at the foot. In order to distract Leo, who arrived later, the girl deliberately left traces of her blood, as if the young man had disappeared by swimming down the river. In addition, he had fought with those people in the alley, and they had returned to the hotel. There is no point in thinking about it any more carefully. Leaving his hands on his cheeks, the lady asks him to breathe calmly. This is something that is now entirely within his power, and something that can be done. Finally, it's all over exhaling. The brunette asks if this is the power he's thinking about. Most likely it's true. The heroine pretends not to quite understand what's what. Smiling, the hero asks if this is really the same power that he never had. There are strange feelings inside. This is the same power that made him lose his way. According to the plot, after the accident, Cassian, who received mana, ran into the thicket of the forest. He did not have time, because before sunrise, Leo would have already arrived with his people to thoroughly check everything. If they find out that the power has awakened in him, it will be the end for him. Although his life was not at all sweet, before if he falls into their hands, they will kill him, as always. The situation left him no choice. It is sad. Inside, there was a desperate and lonely battle for life that made him break down. He could have cried out loud, but he didn't, because he knew it would have been weak. The girl carefully wipes the tears from her face, congratulating him on the fact that the man can now use force. She is glad that everything is okay with him. A well-deserved good life awaits him. The coachman leads several people in a cloak forward. They follow through the forest, down to the cliff from which the carriage fell. Not long ago, finally, the place was found. Now all that remains is to inspect the area. Leo looks around, smiling a nasty smile. And taking off his hood, he needs to look more carefully in childhood. His mother always told him one story that is impossible to forget. It doesn't matter who the enemy is and how strong he is. There are people who can easily die from an ant bite. The red-haired man nodded, but didn't understand what was going on. So he asked what was important to his mother. Smiling, the woman continues something that does not exist. Cannot threaten life. So all people in the way must be dealt with as quickly as possible. If there is something that can cause harm, even if this chance is negligible. Sometimes the chance doesn't come, but still, you have to make the right choice, doing the right thing. This is the surest way to win, and this method has always brought results, so there is no need to doubt it. The coachman points forward with his hand, where a broken carriage can be seen lying on its side. The old man himself saw how it fell into the ravine. The smile on his face makes one believe that this is true, and that he did his part of the job perfectly. Besides this, during his victory, the young man noticed the enraged gentleman screaming at the top of his lungs, and now he is thinking about how much money he can get for his efforts and devotion. Now that Leo has become the only heir, perhaps he will give his assistant something valuable. That would be nice, turning around. The hero asks again if he really saw what happened. The coachman nods obligingly, expecting a reward. But for some reason, they say goodbye to him. A second later, there are splashes of blood around the body is thrown to the side. Breathing is interrupted. The red-haired man perked up. In fact, the man had seen too much. He couldn't be left alive as a threat to his title. Now that the path had been paved, one could only rejoice. There had been many attempts on the brunette's life before he was threatened with death at every step, and no one tried to save him. Despite all the dangers, he did not want to give up clutching at the straws of life. I even want to applaud my brother for his desire to live. It creates strange feelings, but it was impossible to admire his vitality forever. Cassian finally became an adult, and this is a threat. Next year, Leo will also come of age, and then the real fight for the right to inherit the duchy will begin naturally. It was not initially assumed that Carter Sr. had a reason to win. Everyone knows about the fact that a man is completely unable to use magic because he has no family that would help him in this, revealing his true potential. But even such an inferior candidate is still a contender for the throne, no matter what it is. Because it is in this estate. Even if it is insignificant, such a possibility exists, and it is frightening. A 0% probability could turn into a miracle, something that should not happen. And in order to avoid this, the Duke's youngest son had to take extreme measures, as if he was pushed to do this. Looking around, Leo assumes that the young man went down the river. He immediately orders them to split up and search properly, examining the reservoir. The servants nod. It's good if the brother died, but if not, he will learn a lesson. Sometimes death is better than life. The two are riding in a carriage. The girl is sleeping, tossing and turning. A little. Cassian is watching her closely, not understanding what exactly she is dreaming about. He would like to have this information. The day before, the lady handed him something shiny. The boy didn't immediately understand why he wanted the gift, so he asked again to be 100% sure. To stay alive, you need to pretend to be dead on the piece of paper that was under the earrings. The place of birth, age, name, habits, friends, and even hobbies are written. The girl explained in detail that if you put on earrings, the color of your hair and eyes will change. You just have to pretend properly. Now his name is Maxwell. The man wakes up. The lady, very soon, the carriage will arrive at its destination. Opening her eyes, the lady stretches and looks around. A castle is visible in the window. Finally, the story has begun, and is mercilessly gaining momentum. They will see what happens next. The Duke was informed that Miss Rosetta had just arrived, and seemed to be all right, feeling well, and not even hurt after her little walk. The blonde nods as his sister lay on the floor, covered in blood, and Katie knelt down and professed her innocence. The man began to doubt the girl, wondering if she was lying. If Alicia hadn't intervened in time, the guy doesn't know if he would have ordered the nanny to be put in prison. There's nothing strange about the fact that after what happened, Rosetta behaved differently. Her brother was the first to distance himself from her. He would not have been able to approach the maiden. His behavior had caused the lady pain. Even at the most important moment, he had turned away from her, pretending not to notice her on his way. Mom always told her son that he shouldn't treat innocent people badly, but perhaps the boy has hated his sister all his life, even though he consciously tried to change it despite the fact that it was difficult. The realization of reality came to the guy perhaps too quickly distracted from his thoughts. The hero asks where the lady is now. As it turns out, she is in the guest room. The servant hesitated. He didn't know how to tell the truth. The fact was that the Duchess had brought some person with her, and it was a man, not even a girl. His identity was unknown to anyone. There was a knock on the door. Alicia appeared on the threshold, who greeted the blonde. She was told that the woman had returned, so she immediately ran to see her as soon as possible. The Virgin asks about the man lying on the bed. It was Rosetta who brought him with her, and she had some motive. Damian enters the room, who is immediately greeted. It seems that this is the first meeting with her sister after what happened to Katie. The lady steps back. She foresaw that there would be mixed feelings, but on the man's face, there is an open feeling of guilt that cannot be overcome. You have to use all the means that are available. If someone looks at a girl with pity, you should make yourself look even more pitiful. Then you will get even more. Looking down at the floor, the main character apologizes. She should have come to say hello as soon as the opportunity presented itself, but she should have shown the young man to the doctor immediately. He couldn't wait any longer. It could have been fatal. The girl watches her brother react the color of Carter's hair, and eyes have changed. They probably won't recognize him. I want to hope that everything will be just like that without any problems. It doesn't seem like the young man suspected anything. He only asks where the brunette was taken from. It doesn't seem like he knows his sister. It's a rather complicated story, but he still wants to tell it. On the way back, an accident happened. The girl almost fell from a high ladder. Hearing this, the two froze in horror. Alicia asks what happened and if the girl was hurt. Virgo is fine. You can see that she doesn't have a scratch on her. It's clear that the two are very worried, but Damian still feels awkward, so he acts a little strange. What a relief the main character was, just worried that he would start talking to her like a family member because of his feelings of guilt. It's good that, in the end, he can't even look her in the eye normally. If the blonde finds out that Rosetta is not who they take her for, everything will only get confused. Now such a reaction is quite enough. The lady continues the story. It turned out that the man saved her. Because of Rosetta, that man fell down the stairs and seemed to be badly hurt. But first the girl brought him home because she knew she could do it. According to his mother's will, Damian tried to treat the baby as he would his own sister. He tried with all his might to behave correctly, without saying anything unnecessary and without separating the girl. Unfortunately, he couldn't stop thinking about how it was Rosetta who caused Lillian's death. These thoughts brought him terrible suffering, so when he heard the story about the savior, he couldn't pass by. The doctor examines Maxwell. His condition is not as bad as it might seem. There are several bruises, a wound on his side. Fortunately, it is not deep. He needs rest. Then he will quickly recover. The blonde nods. She understands that her request may seem impudent, but still it turns out that the lady wants to ask for something. The girl comes up and asks to talk, to which she is allowed to speak without embarrassment. In fact, it is better to talk without prying ears in a secluded place. The agreement to go out was immediately expressed. Looking back at Alicia, the beauty promises that they will meet at dinner. There is not much time left to wait. They found themselves in a remote office. Even the servants came out from there. The blonde is not sure that she can say everything. Somehow he knows what his sister is going to ask him. The man probably thinks that since he can't show concern for the girl, as if she were his own person, he can at least actually fulfill the request, and thereby ease the burden on his soul. The girl looks straight into his eyes. She would like to hire the boy as her accompanying knight, and it seems there is no problem with it now. She trusts him. The expression changed. But the heroine will not give up. It is quite logical that Damian was surprised. No one usually hires unfamiliar men. So suddenly, who just helped once on the stairs, saving a life. Besides, this is not just a job as a servant, but a position of an escort for the lady. All this is not very important. Now the only thing she is trying to achieve is for Cassian to end up in the castle. Then they will figure it out as they go along. The girl wants that particular character to guard her. It's time to move on to the pre-prepared scenario. To be honest, she knows the person, she just didn't want to reveal all the cards. Damien doesn't understand in childhood. Before the little girl ended up in the Duke's estate, they often played together, and then sometimes sent each other letters, hoping that this would be enough. For the man, this is really unexpected. The heroine asks for forgiveness for living in Valentine's house, who generously accepted her, and secretly corresponding with an old friend. But a reason was found, even for this. All this time, the beauty was very lonely. The blonde knew everything. She grew up and understood that the Duke and Damien felt awkward when they had to be near her. In no case could she be blamed for this. Rosetta is no longer worried about this. The family did everything right, and even though the situation ended this way, there is nothing bad about it. The girl is sorry that she started this conversation, but she just wants to say that this person is the only friend who comforted her even in times of loneliness. He is not one of those who could harm the ducal family. Here the man might be interested in how exactly the lady sent messages, because it is not so easy for a commoner to send letters to the duchy. Naturally, the beauty had prepared an answer in advance, but it would be better to press on his feelings a little more before he starts thinking rationally and asks something. The girl went to the city because she missed Maxwell. It seems she is completely exhausted. Her brother still objects. All of the above still cannot serve as a reason for appointing this person as an escort. The Valentine family is a knightly family. Many dream of getting here to be in the order. The position of an escort is an honorable one. It cannot be simply given to a person from the street just because of a long-standing friendship. The girl lowers her eyes sadly. She knows that she is asking too much, but 13 years have already passed, all of which the nanny and her maids have tormented her charges. During this time, there was not a single person who could tell the truth. Those servants who were nearby obeyed the main one. The hated animals rejoiced at any handout and watched what was happening indifferently. People like them would never open their mouths to sabotage Katie, but Maxwell, without the slightest hesitation, saved the beauty, his old friend from whom he had only received letters a few times. There was a feeling that, finally, there was someone who would be among the trusted persons. Someone who could please. He used to be a mercenary. There would be no problems with his sword skills. The Virgo quietly asks to fulfill her request. This is another time when she cannot step back. She simply cannot do it. The man has nothing to say to her, but a condition has appeared. Maxwell. Although a mercenary is probably very different from a knight who has undergone strict training. He must pass a test that will determine how much his abilities correspond to the level of a knight. Rosetta realized that in this case, the Duke wanted to avoid unnecessary talk. In exchange for a duel, he would choose a knight who had served for only 2 years or less. The test will take place in 2 months. They agree, but first they should hear the opinion of the man himself. When he wakes up, everything will be decided in this life. Nothing comes easy. Alicia couldn't help but ask about the man her sister had brought. She had been thinking about it. The girl was truly curious about what kind of man he was, that they were personally asking him to be an escort. The girl simply said the name, and here's the next question. The boy's name is Maxwell. First, they should have dinner. Otherwise, everything will get cold. But the lady does not think to shut up so easily. It is not in her interests. Still starting to eat, the beauty listens, as they tell her that the man is a close friend. The blonde knew him before she came here to the castle. Sometimes they corresponded, and now they finally met. The man was injured while saving the girl, for which she is immensely grateful. Someone like him can surely hold out in this place where no one can be trusted. Judging by the expression on her sister's face, she remembered the fateful relationship that was mentioned in the novel. The reason for Cassian's injury was quite tragic and completely far from romantic. The heroine nodded. Her eyes sadly dropped to the floor. It seemed that something had changed a lot, and this became noticeable almost immediately. The beauty clarified in order to understand how she could help. It turns out that the lady is too close to the brunette. She does not understand. Whether she will be even closer to him than to her sister, Rosetta laughs, although they are talking to her in all seriousness. The heroine loves Valentine, but perhaps she does not feel the same, so the lady is not among those to whom she can trust true secrets. In fact, it saddens her to think. The blonde chuckles. She doesn't think that what was said is true. The girl loves her sister and trusts her even more. You don't even have to ask about this. The little girl immediately lights up with joy. Alicia is simple-minded and so sweet that you want to smile at that moment. Memories from the past appeared in my head again of how the lady sat in the cage. We can't let the same thing happen to Valentine. The girl doesn't really suit such a future. Distracted, the lady suggests continuing their dinner. In the evening, the lady meditates. The inner strength cannot fully get used to the new body, unfortunately. It would be nice to go somewhere to train, but in that case, the girl would only waste time. Until Cassian gets stronger, the heroine is obliged to protect him, so it is necessary to better control her temperament. Inner strength is a delicate matter. Energy is not the most important thing now. In order to help Carter take his brother's place, money and power are needed. Without money, it will be difficult to gather people, and without them to lay the necessary foundation, and without power, the road is closed. By wisely using her knowledge of the book's plot, the heroine will be able to achieve what she wants, all of which must be done before the coming-of-age ball. After him, the Duke's health will deteriorate greatly. This is the most opportune moment for a change of generations at the ball. It is necessary to show the heir in the form of a brunette. There are too many things to do. My head is spinning. Since the girl did not become the main character, I would like to live a quiet life without thinking about the development of the plot. It was necessary not to interfere from the beginning. In the end, the girl will do everything for Alicia, because this explosive wave can no longer be stopped. The lady remembers Katie's screams, saying that she didn't want to leave and asking to meet her without fail, so that she wouldn't regret for the rest of her life that she wasn't told. The lady does not understand what is so important that they can tell her, but the matter must be brought to an end. Rosetta will slowly begin her plan, which will bring her victory. The guards are too negligent in their duties, and as they walk forward up the stairs, the heroine assumes that the guards are busy guarding another place, but it is not clear which one. Demian told that all the servants of a separate course are checked. When she spoke about that period of 13 years, the man wondered if there was at least someone who noticed. There were probably maids involved, some or all of them, unlike Katie, who was caught red-handed. Their degree of guilt must first be determined. They were put under house arrest. Several people from the main palace have already been called to take their place, but Sister and Alicia may have some inconvenience due to the lack of servants. There will be even more servants this month. The girl thought this is not profitable for her. She needs to hurry before new people come. The innocent ones will return to work in a separate building, or they will be given letters of recommendation and sent to another place. The heroine thanks for the care. She doesn't care, but Alicia won't be able to breathe normally when she's near the maids. All this happened because Demian didn't spend enough time. The blonde doesn't need to apologize. It's enough that the man agreed to fulfill the request. He'll take better care of others. Stop thinking about such trifles, and it would be better to focus on Valentine. The girl went down to the cage. It seems Katie has settled in. Well, as if she was created for prison. The woman jumps up. She is happy that the mistress has come, as she should have. The brunette wants to say something, but she asked to come closer. Her eyes sparkling, the Duchess orders to speak faster before it's too late. To be honest, the woman knows one secret that she wants to reveal. It is this secret that can turn everything upside down. The Duke's family will be completely destroyed. What the lady tells will set the entire aristocratic society on its ears. The lady asks again, although her face does not reflect her true intention to believe. As soon as the woman listens to the beauty, she herself will want to get the lady out of prison. As soon as she promises to leave the nanny alive, she will immediately tell the truth. It doesn't look like the lady is lying. She says that she is the only one who knows about it. The heroine has proof. As soon as she leaves the cell, she will tell, but until then, she can't. The maiden thought she had no idea what kind of secret it was that could shake the duchy. The book didn't seem to describe anything like that. On the other hand, if the nanny was lying, it was strange how desperate she was. Smiling, the blonde refuses to listen. She won't about the secret that can turn the duchy upside down. That's exactly what she's talking about, because she doesn't think it's necessary to talk about anything else. The main character already has enough to do. She doesn't want to know the secret, which is not even mentioned in the novel. Even though she is an illegitimate child, there is no need to destroy the Valentine family. There is no point in interfering and causing a stir in the family. It is better for everyone to bury this secret, so the girl will not even want to listen. and may even leave. Here, the brunette goes crazy. She rushes forward, grabbing the bars and screaming that the mistress is making a mistake. She will definitely regret it. There is no point in clinging to a woman. She assures that she will not listen anyway, because she does not see any point in it. Everyone determines their own destiny. Someday, the woman will greatly regret her refusal. The stupid girl will cry bitter tears. The heroine can't stand it. She grabs the brunette by the throat so that this doesn't happen. She will force the nanny to bury this secret, which means, first of all, she needs to shut her mouth. The old woman steps back. It seems she was scared just by what was happening. She asks what they want to do to her. It seems that in front of her is no longer the real Rosetta developing magic in her hands. The lady chuckles. Who knows who is who here? Everything was completed while the lady was alive. She would not be able to open her mouth until her death, thus forcing herself to suffer. The blonde went straight to Cassian. The girl asks if the young man got enough sleep. He freezes because he smelled dampness, and also a faint smell of iron. Something is wrong here. He even has some guesses as to what exactly. The brunette asks if the lady is hurt. He has a good nose for such things, so the lady explains that she was just visiting her nanny in the dungeon. She needed to talk about something important. Something that couldn't be put off. The same man who abused the duke's daughters is now in prison, the man tells. How several years ago, someone pushed him in the back, causing him to fall down the stairs. The culprit was a servant who was well treated at the estate. After that fateful day, the young man became afraid of stairs. If someone passed by, he would catch his breath from fear. But at some point, everything went away. Sometimes it's hard for Carter, but he no longer clings to the railing in complete despair. The man brought up this conversation to explain that with time, he will be able to forget. Unexpectedly, the boy turned out to be very caring. He will not become a villain. The blonde mentions that she recently talked with Demian. They talked about Maxwell. As originally planned, the girl asked to make her friend an escort, and almost begged. Unfortunately, things did not go according to plan at all, because one condition appeared. A man must pass the test. If he wins in a duel with a knight, then you will become the one who will be next. Cassian realized that they wanted special abilities to be demonstrated. Considering that Maxwell is a commoner, the Duke will choose a man who has received the status of a knight no more than 2 years ago. Naturally, the test will be after the man has fully recovered. Now, even this will not be easy. The lady asks if her friend is worried. He looks thoughtful. She will have to lie if she talks about not being worried, but it is also impossible to change the situation, so she needs to prepare. The brunette thinks soberly, which is even good to be honest. When the guy heard the idea of becoming a security guard, it seemed like some kind of ridiculous thought to him. Rosetta understood why his face looked like it had turned into a statue. He wasn't worried, he was just frozen, because he couldn't find the right words. The brunette is not going to remain silent. The girl did everything possible. Now what seemed impossible has become completely different, so the man will do everything in his power. I like that the young man maintains a good position for his efforts. The girl will give him something. He takes a book out of the lady's pocket. You can read it when you have free time. You just need to hide it. The body is heavy again. Perhaps the lady was transported into a dream. In front of her are familiar iron bars, which the girl saw many times while living life in Rita's body. You can smell blood. The red-haired man stepped on Bernardo's brother, who was quietly calling his sister. That man was laughing. Only now did the blonde notice him. It was ironic. Rita is the cause of pain. The hero never wanted to understand why this happened to him. Scarlet hair and green eyes. He is very similar to a rose, which is actually poisoned. There was no point in lying and running away. There was no point in it in front of Rose. Stands the priest of the largest temple in the kingdom, and a beautiful viceroy of God. His name is Julian, the main male character of the third novel. The young man comes closer to the bars and tries to make his hand grab the palm of the beauty. He likes Bernardo, the way she is, and therefore confesses his love, sincere but poisoned. No matter how much the lady died, she wanted to escape from this hero. He made her feel terrible regret, all her desires. The girl was not sure if she could escape from him even now. Opening her eyes abruptly, Rosetta begins to try to swallow air with her mouth. It is scary to control herself. Most likely she had a dream, because the girl went down into the dungeon. Yes, everything was completely different there. But the atmosphere of a dark and smelly place with a dungeon is the same everywhere. Surely the lady simply unconsciously remembered the past she should have confronted. Not Katie, but the shadow of Julian that he left behind. She needed to pull herself together. Now everything that is happening is just the beginning. What will happen next will be seen. The beauty opens the window to get some fresh air, which she really needs. Now the maiden wonders whether Cassian would comfort her like this, quickly brushing off her thoughts. It doesn't matter at all. Morning came, despite the nightmare last night. The day passes quite calmly. Exactly. A week has passed since the lady returned to the estate. She did not immediately notice that so much time had passed. It seemed that there was no news yet. The girl was worried about how they would look at Cassian here. But Demian had replaced all the servants in the house before the head arrived, so they didn't care about the guy. In fact, it was even easier that way. Thanks to this, the main character did not hesitate with her affairs. Perhaps it is even for the better. Alicia looks at her sister and quietly calls her by name. They are having tea, but it seems that the girl does not hear at all. The woman hopes that no one will doubt that Maxwell is Cassian. They did not take this risk in order to be exposed, although it is difficult to do. No one will get the idea that the illegitimate Valentine picked up the shame of the Carter family on the street. The girl still manages to be approached. She is probably very tired. There are bruises under her eyes, which are immediately noticeable. The blonde offers to go back to the castle. The Duchess looks so sweet when she is tired. And with swollen eyes, it is worth admitting. Even last time, the lady said that she hadn't slept at all. Maybe something was wrong with her. Rosetta assures that she is fine. She has just had insomnia for the last few days. This worries the beauty even more, because lack of sleep is already a problem in itself. Some matter needs to be resolved. Then I can sleep soundly, the girl remembered one surefire way: you can drink warm milk before bed. And they also say that walks in the fresh air are good for you before bed. From a small load, the body will get tired and quickly fall asleep. But if Rosetta becomes afraid to walk alone, her sister can always help her and go together. It seems that she was waiting for this moment to suggest something like this. It seems that the beauty is really worried about her in principle. This is logical because in front of her is someone from the family, a close person looking at her trustfulness. She even somehow resembles Cassian, who behaves in approximately the same way, especially when he is happy or embarrassed. If Elisa has a small puppy, then the young man is a huge dog, and both of them are very obedient. It seems that the blonde really likes such animals, so she constantly compares them with close people doing this unconsciously. The girl nods. She thanks for the concern the heroine can constantly worry, because it means that she loves the person she knows. Laughing a little, the blonde wants to ask something else. Freezing, the beauty asks what happened. Perhaps she had overheard about the incident, which, by the way, was connected with their former nanny, named Katie, remaining unperturbed, with complete calmness reflected on her face. The woman asks why this information is needed. The maid told her something. It turned out that the man could no longer speak. The blonde pretended that she was surprised to know that it was true. For some reason, she didn't think that she would hear something like that from Alicia, who was the furthest from this chain. The woman does not understand how this happened. She continues to play her beautiful scene. No one knows what affected the maid's mouth. They say that she received a shock from being imprisoned in the dungeon, but this is only an assumption. It turned out that everything is so simple. The interrogation is probably not over yet. I wonder how she expresses herself. She probably writes on paper. It's strange, but as soon as the girl is given a pen, she waves her arms and legs, refusing to do anything. It seems that the beauty is very scared of something. Maybe it's because of the approaching punishment. The brother will take it seriously, especially since he made a promise. Perhaps it was all because of the good effect of threats and loss of voice. Katie will die. Anyway, she has already been given an execution date for everything she has done over the past 13 years. It looks like the blonde really managed to scare her. Everything is exactly as it should be. There is no need to worry anymore. Alicia changed the subject. She wants to tell something else. Duke Valentine will be back soon. It would be better if it happened as soon as possible. As soon as the head returned, the punishment would be carried out, and there would be no need to worry about the nanny opening her mouth again. Madam should bring news until the head returned. It is necessary to find Liana as soon as possible and pull her over to your side. It was written in the book that this person is destined to become Leo's right hand, thanks to his loyal character. But this cannot be allowed. Rosetta also lacks people, and such an assistant cannot be missed. One would like to hope that the beauty will manage to lure the woman to her side. This will ease the difficulties in her plans, but if she misses this chance, problems with Cassian may arise too. I must immediately tell Blanca to send the letter she promised. A maid appeared behind me. She announced that someone had come to see the mistress, so I would have to go down to the meeting. The man brought the goods that the girl ordered from the Leamington bookstore, asks to check it. He appeared at such a passing moment that you want to smile. The blonde asks to show the guest she will definitely accept him. The woman knows who it is behind the door. She sent a man under the guise of a book delivery man. He most likely brought not books, but the result that he managed to find out. A tall girl enters the room. Her face is covered with a veil. Her dress is dark blue. The main character froze. She thought that some servant of Blanca would visit her, but she showed up on her own, thinking that this would be the best thing. The smile on her face stretched. The brunette was disguised all the way to the door. Just in case this is not surprising, because in such a strange form, they would not have let her through the main entrance. It is too dark. Walking back to the sofa, the beauty suggests to stop chatting. She would like to get what she needs. Blanca nods. Before that, the girl apologized that the task took much longer than expected. Next time, everything will be different. In exchange for waiting, the lady brought with her a result that will satisfy in her hands, is the material that the girl asked for from reading it. Even goosebumps on the skin, here is not only information about Diana, but also a scenario according to which it will be possible to bring her to the estate. In addition, inside, there is a package of fake identity documents, and most importantly, everything about Liana's weak points is written there. If these are all the materials, the lady reminds that she sent several more requests along with the payment. The woman raises her hand, shows a beautiful diamond ring. The lady is very generous, because she sent something so valuable, despite the fact that she promised much less. Of course, the brunette prepared everything that was needed. She suddenly starts laughing as if there was something funny in the task every time she behaves strangely. Blanca apologizes for laughing. She couldn't even imagine that they would ask for such a thing. The more she has to think, the more she wants to laugh. All the tasks that the lady ever gave her were unusual. The lady has made a lot of efforts to satisfy the requests, but this time she will need help without which she cannot do. The interlocutor does not understand what she asks for details, because she also does not want to do too much. The details of the Duchess will go in the book that the lady handed over. The blonde looks, with an angry look, which seems more focused. You shouldn't behave like that, but for some reason the feelings are trying to break out. Blanca tried sincerely, but from the intent look, it becomes offensive. The girl thought she has no idea what the woman has in mind this time, but she has a lot of questions. Even though she agreed to help with the duchy, it is completely unprofitable for her. She will have to ask why she is doing this. Last time, the lady asked to help her with Cassian, but in the end they agreed that the lady would make at least a few orders. I would like to hear an opinion. As far as I remember, all the conditions were fulfilled, so there is no point in talking about it further. We need to move on to business. The lady has probably already made up her mind. She just doesn't want to talk. She freezes with shining eyes full of surprise. The woman pretends that she didn't remember that the time had already come. She is somehow skeptical about this. That is why the blonde would be glad if she was given an answer. It is difficult to talk like that in some sense. The lady finds the beauty amazing. It turned out that something happened that made her change a little. In fact, the lady made her friend hesitate, because the offer was really excellent. The ideal option for Rosetta as a businessman would be to remain neutral, but here they are, asking to get involved in the affairs of one of the 3 leading noble families of the empire. And this is very stressful. Blanca smiles, but her words are like a knife. She thinks a little more. The heroine is already about to scream, jumping up from the sofa and reminding that they agreed, and agreements must be kept. It turned out that the woman was offering something in return. She would provide very interesting information that was related to that very man from the lady's lips. These words sounded as if the Duchess had some kind of secret relationship with him. In a sense, this is true. Cassian is running after her mistress. She is a savior, and for this we must be grateful. The funeral of the eldest son of the Carter family will take place very soon. The brunette thought that they would hold them no later than the end of summer. Most likely Rosetta would be there. The girl nods. It's true. I remember the novel in the original. It was on the day of the funeral that Leo first showed interest in Alicia, because they will meet there. It is ironic that their romance begins at the funeral of Leo's half-brother, whom he personally dealt with. This time, the plot is not destined to be real, because Rosetta will not allow the red-haired man to carry out his plans. The girl will fight to the end, even if for her it will not be the best idea. The woman heard that the eldest son of the Carter family was the same age as her. She nods because she sympathizes with all her heart. It is worth going to lay flowers. The Duchess wanted to know the date as soon as possible, so that she can be ready. According to Blanca, she will contact the girl very soon as the details become known. The woman promises that she will wait for news even if it takes time. The girl went out into the street. They asked her where they were going all this time. The man calmly followed her, but now he decided to ask the first question. Maxwell chuckles. He didn't think it was necessary to say anything. He is of course going where he needs to, but this time it is simply impossible to stay away and not even say anything. They literally went into some wilderness where it could be dangerous. The young man doesn't look like he's thrilled with the whole idea. He seems pretty tired of what's going on. Of course the sorceress is strong, but there are still questions. The only danger here is the brunette, although he himself does not suspect it in detail. The lady, of course, will not enlighten him. They are looking for a person, someone who can help them today. They have a task that must be completed. As soon as the lady left, the Duchess immediately opened the book that was given to hers. Between the pages lay a thin veil and even a note, or rather 2 notes, one of which read, "In 2 days, put on this veil and go to the marked place, buy a doll in the alley and move on." The woman recommended taking an escort with you. It would be much more reliable. The second note contained a map of the alleys described in the previous one. The blonde wasn't sure where she was going, but she was going to see what would happen next. Even if what she had to do was questionable, there was still hope. Blanca, whom the Duchess knows, has already earned trust, so it would be a little strange to doubt the two stopped in an alley where the person they needed was supposed to meet. Maxwell doesn't understand how someone could be in this place, but it's obvious that this is what was written on the list. After all, Blanca is one of the most unpredictable people known to both. Even though the girl answered Cassian so confidently, something tells her that the further they go, the less chance they have of seeing someone. It leaves its mark. If the blonde had known in advance that this would happen, she might have bought the doll in advance. But there was no choice left anyway, because the mistress gave clear instructions that could not be bypassed. Thinking about it, it becomes clear that they are finally there. Most likely the right person is nearby. A girl appeared behind. She can't say anything, but if so, the woman will simply leave because she has her own things to do. The heroine looks around. She doesn't want to wait too long, but all this makes her incredibly doubtful. Too much has happened lately. The hand holds out a teddy bear, and the Duchess's face immediately lights up with joy. The thing is torn and tattered, but it is clear that this is what was meant in the note. The woman decided to buy not just one copy, but all the dolls that the child made. The girl will be able to take care of the rest until she returns. For now, she needs to find another person. The brunette promises that she will be extremely careful, but for now, they will have to say goodbye. It seems that Maxwell wants to say something. He is very surprised it is noticeable. The man thought that someone like Rosetta would ignore the child, not in a bad way. It just seemed that the lady was a little more cold-blooded when it came to things, and people she didn't need. The blonde offered to buy all the dolls, knowing that the little girl would not be able to give change. Thereby showing some concern, the girl freezes. It seems that the situation was assessed incorrectly. Of course, she gave more money than necessary. The child looked at her in such a way that it was worth giving at least something. It is very annoying when you ignore and then hear crying. So this was avoided. The Duchess does not want to explain her position. A man has the right to think as he wants. But in general, she considers herself a sympathetic person, so everything is exactly like that. The next alley is empty, obviously. The two arrived too early or perhaps too late. There is still hope that the lady did not miss anything. All that remains is to wait calmly. Rosetta turned sharply. She blocked the arrow that wanted to hit them. If the stranger can release the weapon unnoticed, then his stealth is at a high level, no doubt about it. Judging by the direction of the flight, they were directed from the tree behind the girl, does not know which of them is the target, so she asks to stay close or better, yet find a safe place nearby and hide. The man nods, but still asks about the lady. The biggest burden is Maxwell. He does not understand this. If it were not for him, the beauty would have jumped up the tree a long time ago. She already mentioned that she was strong enough. There was nothing else to think about. There was no point in it. The girl looked at the fan. She didn't think that she would have to use it so soon. Before leaving, the Duchess went to the shop, where she asked to attach metal inserts to the item just in case, and it turned out even better than expected. During her second reincarnation, the lady always fought with something metal, so she could not give up her usual weapon. For the Duke's daughter, who is not strong in battles, this is the ideal weapon that can be carried with her. The girl looks around again. All the arrows were flying in the same direction, so there must be only one enemy. It won't be as difficult to figure out as it seems, no matter how skilled he is. It's impossible to completely hide the tracks. In addition, he and Cassian did not notice any surveillance along the way, which means that the enemy was hiding at a predetermined point. They did not even tell Maxwell where they were going. That man knew in advance. Something about a marked place, a veil, and an escort, as well as a promised doll comes to mind. It became clear that something was wrong here. All this was Blanca's doing. She set up an ambush. The heroine realizes that she was stupid enough not to suspect something so strange. Her smile should have spoken for itself. She should have thought twice. The Duke said that he would send her to the bushes near the tree. He would make sure that there was no tail, and then return to the mansion. There were still objections. He would not want to leave his friend completely alone. The blonde orders to follow her orders and not to resist. While the enemy is pulling the arrow, there is still a little time to protect Cassian. Thank God she can do it. Carter quietly asks not to get hurt, and then leaves anyway, realizing that he has nothing more to do here. But if the lady gets hurt, there will be a lot of problems later. This is what scares him the most. A man in a cloak and mask comes down ahead, and the blonde immediately asks who he is, why he is targeting them. Of course, there is no answer. There should not even be hope, but they are trying to attack her. The mercenary freezes in horror when he realizes that the Duchess even deflects the sword, considering that the arrow had not hit before either the girl knocked the enemy to the ground. Pointing her fan forward, Rosetta giggled in. She would be able to look at the face of the one who tried to ruin the campaign, and her whole life it would be nice to understand who was there. Charon remembers that she was told that if she failed this time, the men would increase the debt, so there would not be enough money for medicine for her sister, and she would become ill. The maiden suddenly pulls out another knife and makes a final attempt to attack, which the Duchess dodges as if she were dodging water. She really is good at this. She should have guessed it right away as soon as she named the order amount. The woman easily makes it so that the man ends up on the ground and begs for mercy. She chuckles, obviously not intending to dirty her hands and kill the mercenary. If so, she needs to run quickly. The blonde rips the mask off her face, then says that she gives her 30 seconds to get out of sight, otherwise she will have no choice. The countdown has begun. Realizing that she needs to act, the lady jumps up and runs ahead. They will probably see each other again, but I want to hope not. Maxwell comes out of the bushes. It's all over. He apologizes apparently for not being able to help in any way, and simply hiding after the mistress's first order. They seem to be working towards the same goal, but only the boy will receive help. The man is not ashamed he hid, because he was weak and is glad that he did not interfere. The only thing is, he is incredibly sorry that only Rosetta has to suffer. She deserves better than this. He would like to be different. It seems that there are still worries. The girl sharply asks not to apologize. Everyone has their own shortcomings. No one is born perfect right away. That is why you have to try throughout your life. It's perfectly normal to receive help from someone you know. Rosetta thinks that there's no need to be ashamed of it, even inside your soul, not for show. In addition, the woman is going to make her ally stronger and teach him everything. So if you continue in the same spirit, you will have to regret it greatly. It will not end well. The young man nods. It seems he understood everything. He will no longer regret anything. He will become stronger, and after that, everything will be better. The girl does not need to feel sorry for him. The blonde nods, suggesting that they leave quickly. Maxwell freezes in horror, realizing that that scoundrel, it seems, will simply be released, which still seems to him an unrealistic scenario. It's better to catch him while he's still alone, and then find out what he's up to. Otherwise, it seems there will only be problems. According to the heroine, they'll meet again. Running into another alley, the woman bends down. Finally, she broke away, and they will not pursue her in the end. The task failed up to this point. She wanted to survive, and now regret came about the lost money. It seems that even the price of the brunette's life is zero. I want to cry. I need to pay for Leah's medicine somehow. I'll have to borrow money from the head of the guild again. There's no way out. Charon was warned every time that the next time the price would be much higher. Although it seemed that it was already sky high, the man was the only one who could get such expensive herbs. Since it all started, the beauty has taken on more and more dirty tasks. Before that, it was mainly escorts and informing nothing criminal. If you think about it, this task was a bit unusual. The request was to go to a specified location, find a veiled girl, and attack without killing. I still get goosebumps from the memories the attack failed, because it felt like no one could withstand such animal energy as that milady. My head hurts. I need to stop thinking and better go back to the guild. Suddenly, I remembered the little thing that the woman gave me. It is considered my last chance. The beauty remembered this only now in her hands, is the bear that Leah made, screaming. Karan runs back home. She's afraid for the life of her sister. Opening the door, she immediately runs to hug the child, asking if she sold dolls again. She was told not to do this, but still she did differently. Besides, the alley is dangerous. Something irreparable might happen. The little girl apologizes, doing it sincerely today. Everything that was sold was bought by her sister's friend. She told her so. The finger points towards the window, where the same lady in the bright dress sits on a chair. She corrects the name. The mercenary's name is actually Diana. The other is just a pseudonym. It is strange how the maiden learned the truth, although it goes without saying that it would not be difficult for an aristocrat to obtain information about a commoner who is no better at hiding. They ask Leah to leave so they can talk calmly. The heroine asks for forgiveness for yelling. She is just worried, perhaps even too much. As soon as the child came out, Diana fell to her knees and begged for mercy. She didn't want to be rude. It was just an assignment that absolutely had to be completed. In fact, it is true that the blonde was not going to be killed if Karan is left alive. She will tell the whole truth, and even allow her leg or arm to be cut off as a sign of retribution. The girl does not want to plunge into the abyss of despair, but if she dies, then the end will come. Even for her loved one, her sister deserves to live and not think about anything bad. The woman smiles. She has no passion for killing, because after that, she sleeps poorly. So there is no benefit. In fact, she came with a proposal. Removing her veil, the aristocrat makes everyone start shaking with fear. Her white hair and golden eyes make it clear that she is the daughter of Duke Valentine. It seemed that an ordinary lady from high society had come, but this changed the whole situation. Holding out her hand, the lady made an offer. I would like to take Diana as a personal servant. The brunette freezes in shock. She didn't think she would hear something like that. Unfortunately, she doesn't know how to do anything. She's not literate, and she's just considered a commoner. Sharon is not the kind of person who would be worthy of being a maid in the Valentine family. The only thing I want to know is what the meaning of this proposal is. Being a maid in the estate of a duke, one of the 3 leading noble families, sounds sweet as honey. I would like to get this place and finally relax. Unfortunately, it is not for nothing that they say that the sweeter the speech sounds, the more careful you need to be. Just look at the guild leader who gave money out of the kindness of his heart. The blonde needs Diana since she is a member of the guild. There must be some benefit. For example, the fact that she is quick-witted is good, and also the heroine counts on loyalty. The girl says that she has never served anyone before in the original. She was a first-class killer, unable to pay for her sister's expensive medicine. She was forced to make a difficult choice. Judging by the fact that her eyes have not yet gone out, she has not yet been assigned to kill, so everything can be saved. If nothing is done according to the plot, she will begin to kill people and live as a mercenary, and then meet Leo, to whom she will swear allegiance. The Duke cured Leah, who was treasured, and fortunately, a cure was found in one of the Carter family's magical records. But Diana never knew the truth. What Leo gave was an imperfect experimental drug, and the sister's recovery was largely due to luck. If it hadn't been for luck, the woman would have sworn revenge. The lady says that there will be no choice. Of course, all that remains is to serve obediently. since the heroine values Leah, which means she will be obliged to follow all orders doing so properly. Bowing her head, the brunette quietly asks if they will take the baby hostage. A strange expression, the man is now working for a dark guild, borrowing money from them, and getting medicine. As you know, lady, that drug is nothing more than a fake that is sold under the guise of the real thing. This is secret information, but it came to light a long time ago. The child's condition is not improving. Painkillers dull the pain, but this is only a temporary effect if nothing is done. It will only get worse day after day and will end in death. The blonde is sure that there are symptoms that remain. They cannot be removed, and this is already real proof. Bruises appear under the eyes. Hands often shake. The woman clenches her fists. She will definitely find out everything. And if she was really lied to, she will definitely kill everyone. The Duchess believes that she should not go there. Otherwise, everything will end in death. Leaving everything as is also impossible. The future can change, depending on the lady's choice. The blonde will help her give her everything she could want, if only she sides with Rosetta. Diana still doesn't understand why this is true. Valentine invests in those he really needs as a hostage sister. Leah will receive support and protection too. If the heroine is not betrayed, what began will end well. The woman is quite sincere, although perhaps it is impossible to discern this right away. The girl remembers her past. She was always forced to work and was not given decent pay in return. This could not help but disappoint. This girl is wonderful. She asks to become a force. Maybe she can really save Saron and pull her sister out of this hole called the Guild. I want to cry, and I want to believe in the best. Nodding, the main character heads to the door. The child has already counted to 100. Everything is over, and now everything will be fine. The blonde takes the beauty with her, asking for the last time if Diana will follow them, and she almost begs and asks to go, too, realizing that this is the only way out. It seems that they will be able to get home closer to night. The trip has dragged on too long, and this is bad, because the beauty would not want unnecessary suspicions that would only interfere. A carriage appeared ahead, which almost ran over the lady. The coachman's face is not visible, but the maid screams that it was he who gave her the order to attack the two. The woman assures that everything is fine, they know each other. It is known the person who asked to attack is Blanca's faithful servant and reliable right hand named Logan. The beauty herself is already waiting in the carriage, which in principle cannot be something strange, after all. She is a master at turning people inside out. She came to escort the Duchess, and everyone with her, which is nice to hear from a man who forced others to attack innocent people just to pull off a scam. The blonde, however, is not angry, although it is incomprehensible to the mind when someone tries to almost take a life by injuring. It is not funny at all. Blanca understands, but asks not to be too angry. The girl herself gave such a task. She really wanted to get Diana for herself. In the original, the beauty was the most useful assistant to Leo, having received her dangerous enemy to evaporate. She needed insurance, that if suddenly the plan didn't work, the heroine could take the lady with the help of blackmail. It was she who gave the task. This was clear from the very beginning. Blanca ordered Caron to attack, but leave her alive, leaving one wound. The blonde does not think how good it is, because the girl could not be recognized and killed, or Cassian could suffer too. Buying a doll from Leah was also planned. Children by nature are responsive to people who have shown them mercy. A bait was needed. The woman foresaw all these details, so she decided that it was better this way. Now she asks not to be angry. In fact, even when the blonde bought the toy, she didn't know that the little girl was Diana's sister, and only when she was identified did it become clear who was standing in front of her. Otherwise, everything would have gone to hell. It seems that the lady foresaw that Karen could be lured into the doll. She involuntarily acted according to the script, not the most pleasant feeling when someone forces you to play to someone else's tune. The brunette nods, asking for forgiveness. She promises that this will not happen again and is ready to put her guest house on the line. Although a mistake was made, the lady has good news that she can pass on. Finally, the lady will give the answer that she has been putting off for so long. Strangely enough, all the accumulated unpleasant feelings and fatigue melted away. Having done this very quickly, the woman accepts the offer. This is true. Taking off her veil, the beauty agrees that they can try. And then it will be easier for everyone. Attention is immediately drawn to the color of the eyes. rejected foreign wizards who are called shamans. The difference between such races is the silver shade of the eyes. Even in the original, there was not a word about Blanca's appearance. The woman did not expect that she would turn out to be a shaman. So the plan goes completely wrong. But at the same time, well, the girl has the most reliable assistant. Finally, they went to the living room, laughing. The woman notices that around an interesting person, exactly the same wonderful people are gathering. Logan does not understand what the main character means. I remember Diana, she was shocked that the lady would do such a thing to take the beauty. When the brunette told her that in fact, the partner was behind this order, she would have been under the impression that nothing was really clear. Before arriving at the Duke's mansion, the sisters were placed in a hotel. But this is really normal for them. The only thing is that a lot of questions were asked about something like this by the client. And the girl, Panine, never accepted such requests from anyone at all. In any case, everything is fine. The exact period of 2 years was finally set. Blanca will continue to take orders from other people, just a little less often. First of all this is done for pleasure, and one order from Rosetta is much more interesting than 10 insignificant ones. There is another reason I want to know how the second son of the Caters will react when he finds out that he will not inherit the duchy. It is up to Madame. And here there are some assumptions. I wonder how their partner became such an interesting person. It seems that until recently, she was not like that at all. There was a lot of information in the basement of the Reddington Hotel. Valentine is a member of the highest aristocracy, so naturally there is material there about Rosetta, who later came to make a deal. Just a month ago, the girl was the last person Blanca would think about. Logan explains that everyone grows and changes. Traumatic experiences can also change character. There was an incident in the ducal family recently. It could have affected her. In fact, the man is right. But it seems that it is not just a matter of character. It seems as if the lady has changed radically. Perhaps a family heirloom has come into play. Each of the 3 ducal families had their own special items before the founding of the Com Empire, in the conditions of constant wars. God gave a revelation to the purest and wisest that he should choose 3 messengers to end the war. The chosen ones were the first Valentine Fria and Carter. They were given divine powers and abilities that made them much more powerful. After a long period of chaos, peace finally came. They put an end to the horror. The God who loves people was delighted that there were no more innocent victims in the world and gifted 3 families. Valentine received a book of wishes. Carter, a dragon stone that will allow him to meet the dragon and learn his wisdom. Fria received a mirror of revelations, allowing her to look into the future. The family relic only reacts to one blood relative. Perhaps Rosetta used the relic to become completely different. All the related things reacted only to the people related to them who were already adults. The lady's birthday falls in winter, so she can't use the book yet, no matter what the main thing is that it's fun. The blonde is sleeping because it is already night. For some reason, she hears a painfully familiar voice, calling her by Rita's name. It was after the trip to the dungeon that Katie dreamed of a cage. The dreams began after meeting Diana. Tears flow down her cheeks. She becomes scared. After 3 book reincarnations, and now in the 4th life, family became something unattainable for the girl. She had no hope of finding the warmth that would be given to her. The blonde could die for Alice, the main character, who found herself in a situation similar to hers. But the woman would not risk her life for Damien or Duke Valentine, people she does not know. No matter how much Rosetta thinks about it, in this world, the stars are very clearly visible with the family. They are strangers. Fortunately, it seems the girl is not the only one who thinks so. The brother feels guilty and desperately tries to be nice. It's difficult. Another story with the recently returned Duke. He still looks at his daughter with the same indifferent look. It seemed he felt guilty for not knowing how long the nanny had cruelly abused them. A real Rosette would already be crying from resentment. But this person only benefits from it. She does not need their help. She does not need their affection, based only on pity to live normally on her own, thus not bothering anyone. There is a rustling sound. It is hard to believe that there is someone else in the garden. It is a little scary to even think about it. The girl specially chose a deserted place for a night walk. She is in a field for an extension, where there are only tall trees and wildflowers. It looks more like an abandoned place. Cassian appeared. It seems he has become stronger during the time he stayed in the castle for more than 2 weeks. Before that, the guy was so skinny that it was impossible to look at, but now he has become much better and feels better. The effort put into training becomes his weapon. The woman even made a sound to warn him, but still made him lower his sword. You need to work and work to become perfect. The boy trained so hard that the lady decided to help him. The man asks why the Duchess can't sleep at such a late hour looking at the shawl. The first thought is, I'll throw it in the trash as soon as I get back to my room. It will be easier, the blonde suggested that her friend trains late at night every day. If this is true, then there is nothing surprising in the progress. Carter is a temporary bodyguard, so he had to get up at the lady's urging immediately. After that, he went to train in knighthood, and after dinner, he practiced magic. With all the extra training, he was probably only sleeping 4 hours a night. Sleeping so little is bad for your health, deciding not to dwell on it. The young man tries to change the subject. The girl woke up from a nightmare, so she decided to take a little walk, and some sounds were coming from this place. Usually, it is better to avoid everything strange, but the lady was not scared enough to do just that. Going a little further, the girl picks up the swords. These are spare ones, so now she can help in training as a result. Cassian lost 10 times the position of the elbow, and shoulder is always wrong, which is why his movements resemble a log. The lady is right in all her comments. There is nothing to argue with here, only today. The brunette understood the difference between training alone and crossing swords with someone else. Before that, he had not had such practices, but a new day will come, and the situation will be exactly the same again. Coming closer, the blonde asks what happened too, which she receives a sad, everything is fine. There is blood on his hands. It is better to rest. Even if the man thinks that there are no problems tomorrow, will also be a day without training. He needs a short break. If the knights do not officially go out to duel with the young man, it would be much better for him to sleep without worrying about anything else after a daytime sleep at night. Perhaps he will again study with the Duchess, but in general, it is better not to go to the knight's part. There is no point in hanging around where you can't learn anything. It's just a waste of time. It's better to use this time to practice in the clearing, and the main character will take care of everything, making sure that problems don't arise. The brunette slightly disagrees with this judgment, because then the problems will be even bigger. People will start gossiping. The lady suggests not to worry about anything. The goal is completely different. In any case, the man will no longer see the warriors after he receives official status. It turned out that the hero had in mind the Duchess. He does not want the lady to blame herself for bringing him here. When he fails to do what he has planned, it will not end well. Unfortunately, no, since what is said without a bit of embarrassment is very confusing. Maxwell blushes a little and bows his head, making the girl laugh. She really likes the kindness of the one who is now her close friend. It's actually cute the way he acts. The heroine doesn't care about anything. She usually doesn't pay attention to people who don't attract her, but she herself is also not kind, no matter what kind of people she likes. It's even a little ironic. Half an hour has passed. The two are looking at the moon, as if enchanted. The sky is beautiful. Valentine asks how things are going. It turns out that with magic, everything is fine. Of all the people she knows, Cassian is a real genius, so he will be able to use his powers in battle. The girl saw in the future how everything was exactly like this. He does not hold back, and asks why he died. Then I do not want to tell the truth. But the guy was too good-natured and weak, all because they did not meet. The words are a pure lie, but it cannot be truer than this. The family's estate has been very noisy lately. They say the nanny has been abusing the duke's daughters. The man asks if the nanny was executed. It turns out that no, they are still looking for those involved. However, since almost everything is known, the ceremony will take place very soon. It turns out that all the workers will leave the mansion. The hero wants to check something, but he will not tell, because it is his personal business. If the interlocutor covets, he will be killed without even thinking. Several more long days passed. The protracted hunt for accomplices was over, and now all the servants were leaving the duke's estate. The guilty were punished by being beaten, and their wages were completely confiscated. Their future was completely bleak. It was impossible to profit from it. Everyone who was there was thrown out without a letter of recommendation. Those whose innocence was proven were also sent out of the mansion, so as not to stir up the daughter's injuries. That was the agreement. In fact, it was unfair, but no one dared to challenge the decisions. As compensation, they received severance pay and a letter of recommendation with Valentine's seal. The family they would go to was determined in advance, so leaving the mansion was not such a big loss. Marie stands aside, watching her joyful colleagues who are waiting for their happy future. She should be among them at least. That's what her mistress promised her. She needs to go somewhere, but it's not clear where. It's better than Katie, at least she doesn't have to die. It's the nanny's fault that the maid ended up in a deplorable situation. The woman walks further through the forest. She is incredibly hungry, and in addition, her legs hurt. She bumps into someone getting up. She has to get scared, and her head immediately bows, because His Excellency himself is standing in front of her. After the execution, breathing became much easier. In the mansion, new servants were recruited through advertisements, and this is how Diana was able to calmly get to work. So far, everything is going as planned, but the person opposite is a surprise. Logan showed up at the mansion. He barely managed to dissuade Madame from coming there herself. If Blanca were a maid, she would constantly play pranks on the girl, and her life would become much harder here. You just have to say a simple thank you. In the end, the man is here, but the lady could not imagine that he was in such a position. At first, the girl thought that he was a simple secretary, a faithful servant. But as it turned out, he was also a doctor. When Katie mocked her sisters, she received a prescription for medicine from the night's doctor. The ointment that Alicia and Rosetta had been using for over 10 years was special. It was suspicious that the lady kept asking for the medicine, but the man didn't even keep proper records, let alone report it to his superiors. It's no wonder that it was like this. Gold coins and jewelry were found in his room. He was stripped of his position and property, and eventually sent away. Logan took his place. It's undercover work, which is difficult. He will quickly be suspected if he doesn't follow the rules, which means he really understands medicine. The brunette works in the guild, and often one of the guys gets injured. He was also involved in the treatment of some patients whose identities should not be revealed. Among them is also Maxwell himself. This was at the request of the lady. The words are somewhat encouraging, of course. In terms of confidentiality, you won't find a better doctor than Logan. The treatment of men was more of a choice left to the hotel's discretion. Although the heroine knew that they could keep secrets, she was still a little worried. If you look at it this way, the guy like Blanca has silver eyes, a feature of those who were born with unique magic. That's it. The girl has read something about shamans and is somewhat knowledgeable on the topic, although not completely. She had read that pure silver, like the one the hotel's leader had, was extremely rare, usually mixed with other colors, like the doctor's. In fact, the man had taken a job at the castle to teach the future Duke of Carter magic, especially the kind that was popular in battle. Since there's a search for new servants, now the maiden asked to send someone as a teacher. The sorceress decided to stay in her territory in the end, but this does not seem to be a problem. The blonde asks about Cassian. I would like to know whether he will have a future or not. Expelled from the ducal mansion, Marie met an aristocrat on the side of the road and rode in his carriage. But suddenly, a rumbling sound came from her stomach. The man only smiled and, like a true gentleman, took her to a restaurant to have lunch. A commoner was eating at the same table with a gentleman. An unheard of oddity. The maiden did not even dare to touch the cutlery, but she was given permission again, offering to eat in peace and not worry about anything so much. After the words, the rose-colored glasses became darker, forcing her to dream. Marie thought that perhaps she had become the heroine of a fairy tale she had read as a child, a poor girl who met a prince and immediately received high status. The meal was so pleasant, sweet, and beautiful that the maiden eventually began to complain about her life in the past. The girl mentioned everything she remembered about the atrocities committed by the nanny and how terrible her end was. She even told how all the servants from the annex were locked up for questioning, and that in the end they all had to leave. Before the lady could blink, she found herself the one who was accused and thrown out into the street. Everything is too unfair, because the Duke should have given at least a letter of recommendation. Smiling, the man holds out a handkerchief. The lady said that she would help to avoid punishment, so the girl made a difficult decision, but she could not imagine that she would be left with nothing. The man sympathizes doing it with the most genuine expression on his face. He knows that there are two daughters in the family, so he asks which of them did such a terrible thing. It turns out that one of them was Rosetta, who suddenly changed, becoming too cruel. The woman suddenly became frightening, constantly blackmailed, and behaved even worse. Alicia also seemed to become a different person. She began to do things she would never have done before, jumped out of the window. Although, however, this is not entirely important. The girl does not want to continue to say things that are unpleasant to her. Still deciding to continue, the gentleman clarifies whether it is true that they both have changed. It is a continuous headache, and nothing but problems. Marie took it literally with worry on her face. She offered to check the temperature. Her hand involuntarily reached for the stranger's face. In a split second, the prince rushed to grab the lady by the wrist. He was suddenly hit by cold. He felt sick. The fairy tale ended, returning the lady to reality. The brunette apologizes because of the worries she behaved incorrectly. It was necessary to be more polite. The guy's smile is still sweet as honey, but already poisoned. It was rude, tears in the eyes. The cup accidentally fell and broke. The lady is blamed for her noise. If things do not belong to a man, he hates them. The smile disappeared. The eyes darkened and his face did not reflect any emotion. A quiet voice says something, but everything gets mixed up. The hero grants the sweet girl and her soul divine mercy, and thanks to this, she comes to life again as she wanted. Marie became different. Her body was filled with bright energy. She glows, but gradually, everything fades away. Now, the woman will be able to spend her whole life next to the prince she desires, but in the form of a terrible white monster with teeth and a long tongue. She no longer has thoughts and unnecessary worries. Having gone to his estate, the young man ponders what he was told. Alicia and Rosetta seem similar, but at the same time, very different. He would like to know which of them is Rita, who escaped from another life, transferring her soul to a new body. Logan looks at the blonde when she asks about Maxwell. In fact, the boy is coping quickly, grasps everything, and shows himself well in practice. Now he achieves much more than he gets in lessons. They were almost meaningless in their number. The brunette teaches 1, and he learns 10. This cannot but be excellent news. At first, when the lady said that she wanted to raise the knight to a high level, the doctor even doubted, because there was little time left and too much needed to be done. That is why he was against cooperation with Madame. Apparently, now the opinion has changed dramatically, making one happy that they are together. At this rate, they will be able to reach the top, but 2 ingredients are missing. It does not matter how many dishes can be prepared. If not everything is available, the person will be tied hand and foot without the right to change. The young man's face literally reads, "How could she know?" Initially, only wizards can sense mana people without power, like the Duke's daughter cannot know about the presence of another person's power. The blonde became an exception to the rule, having abilities from another world. In any case, there is also a correct solution for the shortage, and this is the opening of the mana passages. The girl is a little worried. She does not know if Cassian's body will withstand the increase in energy. The man said that it is better now, but it is impossible to take his word for it. After exhausting training, nothing worked, but perhaps at least now everything will work out. And then there will be no need to worry. The woman will try to solve the problem with mana. There is hope that everything will happen if you follow the instructions. Logan doesn't understand. Mana is something innate. It can only be increased with the help of forbidden ancient magic the lady doesn't do, that she must have a way that no one knows. All that's left is to trust and watch the process. Since the discussion ended, the young man takes out something else. He brought the result of the research that the lady asked for just recently. Inside the folder are all the details about the dark guild that Diana was a part of. It is roughly known what kind of place it is, but without specifics, we can't go further. People from the hotel can easily sort out all the problems, but perhaps the lady wants to do it herself. If Valentine is right, she will hit the same way, even much harder, so to speak. To restore the balance, Diana herself will take revenge on them, doing everything in an ideal way. Cassian is distracted. He was given the conditions of a real fight. But for some reason, he constantly disappears in his thoughts. He is quickly disarmed by Caron, who screams, It seems that rage has come up since the enemy once again stared around like a fool. The blonde sitting at the table saw what happened and asks him to be careful. His neck is completely on fire. For some reason, the man is irritated by what is happening, although explaining the situation is not an easy task. When Rosetta propped her chin up with her hands, the distance between the two of them shortened. That's the problem, seeing them out of the corner of his eye. The man lost his self-control. There was a strange feeling inside that made his heart beat faster. Their faces were so close that every detail could be seen. Maxwell was afraid that Logan would eventually notice how beautifully her wonderful orange eyes sparkled and how beautiful her eyelashes were. The man lowers himself to pick up the fan that was launched for salvation. His face becomes increasingly flushed inside. There is still the same feeling that makes you want to scream. It will not subside. What is happening is truly an incomprehensible mystery to the mind. Half an hour later, Diana and Maxwell joined the tea party. The skills had improved significantly since the first duel. Then the young man could not even follow the movements of his opponent and constantly got hit in the neck. They will continue at the same pace for another month, and then when attacked, he will not wipe the floor with himself. The brunette can also help, but it is not clear how exactly. The only thing he can do is hide behind the backs of the mistress, and Master Sad Eyes drop down. Everything is written on the young man's face. He is probably thinking about how he wants to become stronger in order to benefit their small alliance. They have a month left. The Duchess wants to know what the probability is that Maxwell will be able to win in a one-on-one duel. It depends on the opponent, says Diana. In total, she named the number 40, which means the probability of dying is 60, which is a large number. With magic, the chance of being in a state of 70, and the average value of 55, is not the best option. Cassian should be a personal knight, no matter what. But what was said is too ambiguous to bet on him. The exam is close, and therefore you need to think and train more actively. Already this week, Rosetta will find out who will be her friend's opponent. Perhaps it will be someone from the order number 4. The guy's face reflects mixed feelings, most of the tension and discontent, anger, and composure. It is not surprising that he has such a mixed reaction after all he trained there. According to the terms of the duel, the man had to fight a knight who had been in the castle for no more than 2 years. The Order 4 consists of just such candidates. Hearing that he had to fight with people who ignored and mocked him must have awakened many unpleasant memories in his heart. The young man pretends not to think about the future, only about the present. Valentine suggests going there and looking at the members of the squad. It's something like surveillance. You need to know the level of the enemy in order to make an ideal plan of action. They can't be so good as to ignore Maxwell. The two sit in the bushes and listen to the conversations until the lady leans over to ask if the brunette knows anyone present in front of them are the strongest ones with whom he seems to not get along. Then the conversation takes a sharp turn. The conversation turns to Carter. Some people think that there is no point in remembering the name, because very soon he will be kicked out. News has spread throughout the estate. They will choose an opponent for him from Squad 4. David stretches a little, speaking out against it. The mention already makes him sick, but it is better not to waste your nerves on some boy. Still, the 4th squad has more experience. It would be better if they took one of the other knights, but this will not happen. David grins. That man was lucky enough to meet one lady, after which his life changed. As the young man said, part of Valentine flows in his blood, but the relationship was so distant that it is very difficult to call him a relative. He admits that the lady is a real pain in the ass. His parents said that they didn't like her from the start because of the way she behaves and looks. At first glance, the attitude towards Rosetta was the same as towards Alicia, but the essence of chivalry is to be faithful to the family, so agreeing with such speeches would be regarded as mockery of the head. Because of the blonde, all the servants were noticed, even the one with whom the man was going to have fun. The nanny was the one who screwed up in the first place. Alicia wasn't scolded, so her sister rebelled to make things worse for everyone. The woman took advantage of the opportunity and dragged her lover along. In any case, the kid would definitely not pass the test. The brunette looks weak and stupid. He can usually barely raise his eyes, and as soon as the conversation turns to the Duke's daughters, he trembles like an aspen leaf. When the man said, "the thief's daughter," the mask of eternal indifference on Rosetta's face cracked. The woman seemed upset. Her face remained impassive, but Cassian sensed true anger. It was strange, his heart fluttered, as if Rosetta's anger had given him permission to feel these feelings. The young man didn't care about the insults directed at him, but when it came to the young lady, it hurt. Rumors about the girl's biological mother have been circulating around the city for a long time, but children do not choose their parents. That's true. The kid doesn't understand what the Duchess is guilty of. People pointed fingers at those who managed to survive. The brunette quietly asks the girl not to worry. In this way, he tries to calm her down, thinking that the words hurt the lady. The funniest thing is that the guy, confused about everything, tries to feel sorry, and oddly enough, consolation works very well. Finally, the group leaves. Diana can't believe that the girl will leave everything as is. Logan completely agrees with her. The heroine herself does not know how to react to everything that was said. David speaks as if he is a real blood relative, and Rosetta is an imposter. If anyone had heard, they would have laughed. It's all obvious if Cassian had come to training, they would have treated him worse than a dog. People who throw words around need to be taught to be sorry and know the consequences. The woman will do everything to make the knight lose. I would like to believe that he will kill himself, as he promised his comrades. Damien reported that Maxwell had been chosen as the opponent for the duel. The knight looks displeased. He is not happy that he will be fighting a weak opponent, but this is a sign of disrespect. The boss always stays on top. If anything, he adds poison to the enemy's food. Now the man curses what he was told. On the street, a brunette runs into a blonde. She really has the blood of an insignificant creature full of lust. The girl says something about how the man's face seems familiar to her. She tries to start a dialogue. The girl assumes that this is Barham. She knows that he is one of the best knights in the squad. The main character asked to appoint David as her opponent. It feels like she's making fun of me. When a friend's job was at stake, no sane person would choose a stronger opponent. But she took Baramy. For some reason, the young man immediately blushed and began to stutter. This is not like his behavior when he is around Damien. Brother said that, out of respect for Maxwell, it would be better to choose a knight with less than 2 years of experience. Even though they were friends, the maiden did not want her life to be guarded by a weakling. Only now does the man realize that he is not being ignored, but is actually being recognized. The Duke's eldest son also recognized the knight instead of throwing him out, and therefore listened to his mistress. The girl is beautiful in any case. She is the daughter of a criminal, so she will not marry a representative of a noble family. If David wins, he becomes an escort. He smiles, then he can take her as his wife. This option suits him. The conversation with Cassian is strange. For the first time, he openly talks about his bad mood. It's good that the blonde seduced the man. I had to go to extreme measures. Barham is what he is. He who puts poison in his opponent's food will eventually lose the fight and expose his weaknesses. Carter thought that the maiden chose a rival to help Cassian, but it turned out that there was another reason. Virgo just wants the guy not to be insulted. It's only a matter of time before public opinion changes. The blonde didn't care how to get revenge for being called names. She wanted her friend's life to be better than before. Cassian seems simple-minded, but his innocent face reflects all emotions. It's amazing and frightening how the man sees right through his girlfriend. There is hope that he will not realize that this is not the real Rosetta in front of him. The girl smiles. She carried this mask through other incarnations. For some reason, it seems that the young man will win if necessary. He discreetly uses his magic to make sure that everything is possible. Apparently, the hero has already practiced everything. In any case, he will try not to go beyond the limits. But if this is not enough, it is better to practice more. The blonde thought that a man usually didn't resort to dirty methods, but this time the knight's place was at stake. The two look at the blue sky. It's a pity that the short rainy season is due to begin in the coming months. Each family was sent a letter inviting them to the funeral. The lady will inform them about this after the duel. Guild leader Owen is angry that when Diana left, they started to fail. She was the most talented. The girl still has an unpaid debt, but she ran away. Of course, if it weren't for the low salary and high interest rates, she would have already paid it all off. Someone followed into the room. The man apologized for the shards. One of the employees broke a cup. They haven't had time to clean it up yet. Logan had done everything right beforehand. He had arranged something interesting to contact the guild. The man was given all his property, but the money was also decent, so the young man easily doubled what he had saved. All thanks to the lady. 2 days later, she asked to go to the riverbank. The gold must be given to the green-haired guy. The lady was asked the reason. At first she did not want to tell, but somehow they forced her a little, blackmailing her. Blanca is not an ordinary person. The money is needed to save the sunken ship that was carrying the imperial treasures. To raise a ship, you need enough money, and people, once it is raised, all investments will be doubled. The word spreads faster and faster, so more investors appear, so that person sets a rule. There are 2 days left. All the investors are rich, so they won't have any problems. The brunette received the invitation only this afternoon. The lady doesn't look like an aristocrat, but there's something about her that's a chance for the guild leader. Near the port, the man noticed Diana. Her face became prettier, although her words sounded more like irony filled with falsehood. The woman ran away and now decided to come back. The hero will never take Karen back. There is no point or benefit in this. The bag contains money that the girl stole not long ago. She knows best what's what, but she doesn't want to admit it. The blame lies with Owain, although it was Diana who ran away without paying for the food. And moreover, without taking the demand, many tasks had accumulated without her. Cassian stepped forward just as the man was about to attack. He smiled, understanding why the mercenary had become so beautiful. Theft was usually the brunette's thing. He sold counterfeit medicine and took money for it. Diana slapped him, not holding back her true emotions. She was no longer alone. She should calm down. Nothing would happen anyway. The blonde watches everything from afar. She was worried that there would be more mercenaries, but everything ended well. Logan suggests trying to apply poison to the weapon using magic. The lady is probably capable of it. If you think about it, in her second life, the heroine had brothers who made terrible poisons, and the girl learned several recipes. The girl asks to prepare medicine according to her prescription. Blanca will get the ingredients to see the result too. 1,000 gold originally belonged to the lady, so she will take them 5 noquani. They will divide into 3, one part to Karan, the second to Cassian, and the third to Logan and his lady. In fact, nothing is known about that ship. The date was specially stipulated, so that they would not have time to find informations. What happened is simply the result of greed and sin. Blanca agrees to take the payment. The man has already prepared documents, evidence of the crimes. They will be found as soon as the investigation begins. Shortly after arriving at the scene, the Duchess's coachman Melvin, as ordered, returned to the duchy with a letter. The day was set aside for Cassian's real-life combat practice, but the most important thing was Diana's revenge. The fact that the maiden owns a sword must be kept secret. The longer you hide an important card, the brighter it will shine later. Then the mercenary will be assigned to Alicia as an escort, and all evidence of her work for the guild will also be disposed of. The situation with the people is settled. Blanca notices that it seems she can finally go far away back. Owen begs for mercy. The knights will arrive soon. The crimes are solved, so he will end up going to prison. The girl also worked there, and they treated her terribly. The memories bring tears down my cheek. Unfortunately for the guy, the woman won't be caught. Now she has someone on her side who will provide reliable protection. Joy and confidence were mixed in her voice. The blonde felt a subtle guilt because she took Diana to use her. In any case, the Duchess promised to protect, so she will definitely do it. No objections will be accepted here. After saying goodbye to Blanca, the maiden came out and also hit the head of the guild. She says that she is a trustee. The knights have arrived. Everything will be over. It is only worth saying that Cassian single-handedly dealt with this crowd. The guy did a good job. Now he can be praised, which makes him very embarrassed. The lady thought that there would be only 5 people, but more than 10 rush forward, led by Damien himself. The girl doesn't understand what the man is doing here. He explains that the letter was sent, and it talked about criminals. It seems that they brought in more security than was requested. It seemed that the sister might be in danger, so more people were needed. Maxwell stands nearby. They thank him for protecting the lady for a temporary escort. He did an excellent job. In the hideout, the knights found evidence. The bag of gold that Diana had brought was disguised as money for the escape. The situation was quickly resolved. Damien knows that Rosetta doesn't trust him, but he hopes that the woman will eventually be able to trust him, at least over time. In the eyes of her brother, the lady must have seemed like a poor thing who had rushed into such a risky business without help. In place of the girl who so sought forgiveness, there is now a fake. She already said that she takes better care of Alicia. A harsh expression is not the best. Damien is obliged to treat the ladies as his family, but it was decided long ago that this would not be the case. When Rita's family found out that the person in front of them was not a real person, they blamed her. Their hearts broke and howled with pain. It's been raining outside for days. The season has begun. It should stop on the day of the fight. That's something good. The sun finally came out. The rumor about the commoner who destroyed the guild had already spread throughout the entire order. People started thinking that David might lose. The man is angry. It doesn't suit him at all. If Maxwell's powers are significantly superior, and the young man loses, it will be a shame. Black Lion sounds very familiar. There are still a few hours before the fight. I need to warm up while I have the chance. On the way, I met Carter, who just passed by. It is only because of the rumor that he is now being ignored, and this attitude resembles mockery. It is forbidden to touch the opponent before the fight, but the young man does this by grabbing his hand. The brunette made sure that they left him alone. He was tired of this attitude, so he doesn't want to listen to any swearing. Rules are made to be followed to prevent dangerous situations. It is better to watch your words and look. The duel began. More knights came than expected. The girl never thought that there would be such a spacious place. Alicia is a little worried. She is not used to such a crowd of people. Apparently, she did not go out often. The girl is confident in the man's victory only because he was led into the castle and came with Rosetta. Now Damien came. He set a condition, so he has to see it personally. The blonde is glad that they are all friends. Before her eyes is the image of an ideal family, exactly what the lady wanted to see. The happy environment of the main character will remain. Barham and Maxwell enter the ring. The first one to give up, or the first one to hit the opponent's vital organ, will win or lose. David is rude, relying on the fact that you can't hear from the stands. There is no need to have conversations during the fight. There is no point in it. The knights, like those sitting in the stands, are closely watching the course of events and constantly gasp in surprise. The fight lasts longer than he thought. The puppy, on the contrary, is really stronger than it seemed. And this can't be a positive note. In fact, it doesn't matter whether the boy is really that strong. David will still win because the medicine was taken. Sober is a doctor's son. He studied with David. He knew a lot about medicine, like his father. It's amazing. When the young man entered the Order of Valentines, he was finally noticed. Such abilities will help him achieve victory. The bruises on his body grew larger each time the man refused some new adventure. Eventually, Sober gave in, secretly helping the man deal with his rivals. Over time, the hero began to be avoided because of his stuttering. The more he is ignored, the better it will be for David. Thanks to the herbs that the man brought, it was possible to make the necessary medicine. The young man is not going to check, because he is sure that everything was done perfectly. One way or another, all responsibility lies with Sober. Maxwell encountered the redhead shortly before the fight. He was caught and was offered to drink water from a flask. In any case, everything has already been decided. The brunette smiles, suggesting to stop disgracing himself and give up as soon as possible. Cassian looked away for a moment, and as if by fate noticed Rosetta. The maiden whispered that he would definitely win. No matter what tricks the opponent uses, everything will definitely be fine, because he is one step ahead secretly, of course. Usually, David would slip in a drug that would then cause headaches and nausea, but then some people started to get suspicious. Then a drug was invented that would work in the middle of a fight. It would simply weaken. Before the young man could do what he needed to, the brunette fell to the ground. The fight was over. Maxwell won. It's hard to believe that we had to lose simply because of dust that appeared on the battlefield at the right time. Barham wanted to attack from behind, but then his stomach twisted. An attack of this kind is a violation of the knightly code. It recently became known that David had been replacing drugs in his opponent's food, so he will be arrested accordingly. The brunette screams, trying to break free. He doesn't understand why they grabbed him without evidence, but it seems that nothing can help. A detailed account of all the cases was given by a witness, and they also gave a document, a contract, confirming the connection with the Dark Guild. I immediately recall Sober's words. I need to quickly find him and find out what's wrong, why he betrayed his partner. Once it was all over, since it was a noisy day in the duchy, 20% of the conversations were about the victor without a family. Rosetta went down to the garden, where she found her friend looking at the moon. She wanted to congratulate today's winner. It seems that recently, the girl had already said everything that was necessary, but it was a formal congratulation and greeting in front of everyone present. Now the blonde came to congratulate not Maxwell, but Carter. It's good that the young man surpassed David. The man trusted the girl, and that he would win even without force, so he didn't use anything special, trying to do everything on his own. The girl thought about the truth now, like this, sitting next to each other. They enjoyed talking about it. The answer she was given was quite to her liking, and Cassian felt the same way. It turned out that the medicine was not mixed in by Rosetta. The symptoms appeared too suddenly, and finding an answer to the question is not so easy. All this is Sober's doing. It is understandable why the young man is surprised, because the red-haired man is exhausted and always hid behind others. All this is Sober's doing. It is understandable why the young man is surprised, because the red-haired man is exhausted and always hid behind others. Having promised to help with the arrest of his friend, the man did his part of the plan, distinguishing himself. Running to Diana, he burst into tears and admitted that he had slipped the medicine, and then they met before dinner. Apparently, David often mocked his partner, only calling him one, but in reality, considering him not even an animal. The red-haired man helped only because he was threatened, but when he learned about the plans, he immediately seized the opportunity to take revenge. The man nodded, but now he had to ask if the lady was going to tell her father or her brother what had happened. The guy hopes that the person who took revenge for many years will be forgiven. This situation put him in an awkward situation. The night sky is as beautiful as it was on the day Cassian's carriage collapsed. And perhaps the young man remembers that too. Even he cannot be judged for anything. It was self-defense, nothing more. I would like to think that the answer was to his liking. It's a pity that even though the hero wanted to deal with it using his own powers, he ended up fighting a man on drugs. During the fight itself, David was fine. The poison only affected him at the very end, so everything was fair. A tiny step towards the goal was taken so far, only Maxwell's abilities have been recognized. It's too early to cry. The hero quietly says that he raised that dust on the field. To whisper so shamelessly and immediately turn away is in Cassian's style. Now was the perfect time to tease the guy, but for some reason, my face was burning. The man took advantage of what he could. He had a book. It was given to him by the Duchess, and it was all about magic. It was already mentioned that there is no rule against using magic, so technically, Carter did not cheat. The girl's mana is concentrated 3 fingers below the navel, but Cassian's is in the heart, so his body depends on energy. The girl quietly asks to breathe calmly. She never thought about causing harm, so nothing terrible will happen. By following the mana flows, one can clear a path by force, which is what the Duchess is trying to do. Recently, Virgo has started to train. Correcting other people's energy is still difficult for her. The girl falls to the floor. Blood comes out of her mouth. The young man worries about her condition and does not know how to help in such a situation. Suddenly, the beauty decided to tell that the funeral would take place in a week, and this made everyone freeze. You should worry about yourself. It is much better than worrying about those who are stuck in the chain of reincarnations. It had been raining for several days, and when the sun came out again, the duchesses gathered dressed in all dark. The strange thing is that both the victim and the murderer are present at the funeral. The maiden did not want to take Cassian with her, but he asked to go. I would like to see the expression on the face of those who tried to kill. If there is such a desire, he himself will see everything. The young man thanks him. This is his fate. Of course, the maiden would not agree without some plan, but she knows how to act. In this world, it is customary to cover the face with a veil during mourning, and this rule applies to everyone, regardless of gender and age. The brunette put on a veil that almost completely hides his face. He did this on purpose to hide. There are too many eyes around, but I hope everything will be okay? Alicia asks worriedly. The blonde asked the heroine not to remove her veil under any circumstances, and to be sure to say only condolences, nothing more. It's scary if Leo sees the beauty's true feelings. He will definitely become interested in her, just like in the novel. The father goes first, as in the original. The Duke and Damien approach the deceased couple to talk and say sincere words. Leo, who has never been officially declared heir, stands to the side as Alicia and Rosetta approach him. I want to send my sister away, but the girls still move forward. The blonde sadly offers her condolences. The lady heard that there was an accident. She continues to play perfectly, pretending that she does not know who the killer is. It was hard to step aside because the moment had finally arrived, where the original story begins. The girl comes up and quietly says the same words, but at the same time, she is a little embarrassed, because it seems as if she said something wrong. Watching what is happening from the sidelines, the heroine tries to make sure that the blood does not run cold in her veins. The thought comes to mind that if Rosetta had died too, she would certainly not have been able to cope with her grief. Trying to restrain herself, the heroine realizes that she is about to cry. In the original, Leo allowed himself to feel pity, and that is how he became interested. It is not clear what to do to avoid tears, but it is necessary to come up with something, otherwise, trouble cannot be avoided. The heroine begins to whine. Fortunately, her sister's tears have dried up. What is happening should radically change the course of events. Today is the funeral of the one who was considered a disgrace. Rosetta is probably crying because they were so similar. Damien doesn't know how to react. Grieving for someone in a similar situation is considered something stupid, but at the same time reasonable. Maxell watches from the side, although he knows that the lady is crying for Alicia. For the first time he has seen someone's grief for him. To the man's surprise, he was much more concerned about the back, trembling in front of him. Everything else seemed to merge into one picture. When the heroine was about to leave, her father called out to her. The girl was not feeling well. It was better to go back home. It was surprising to hear words with a hint of concern from such a person, but the lady still obeyed. The most important thing is that the original story never started. For now they are all safe. Even though Carter views this funeral as a social event, Cassian doesn't deserve to hear laughter. To get back, all three head out of the palace, along a quiet road to get out without getting caught. There is a guy sitting on a tree waving his hand. His appearance resembles someone from the Fria family. By the will of fate they met, so he asks for help. A man climbed a tree to help a stuck kitten, but now he can't get down and is ashamed to call the knights. Maxell was ordered to go and help. This is the most important thing. Now a few minutes later, the young man came down. The red-haired man thanks her, thanks to the lady. The honor was restored, but from now on, it is better to entrust such things to other people. Frisia noticed Alicia standing behind her. The man offered to hold the kitten because he saw that she was interested. The blonde allows this to be done. Such a chance does not come often, so it must be taken advantage of. Thanking for saving him again, the man asks the ladies' names, and they introduce themselves in greeting. The boy's name is Daniel. He is the younger brother of the current Duke of Frisia, and he was in poor health from birth. It's good that the lady helped the young man, since she helped her youngest son. It means she can ask for a favor later. Noticing something on his hand, the man offers to look. His family is known to have divine powers. The heroine feels terrible. For some reason, the energy is exactly the same as in her past life. The girl planned to remember Frisia's debt later, but it was still better not to get along with this family, and even better not to cross paths at all. It sounded a bit sad, but it was time to go home. My sister was feeling ill, so my father allowed her to go back without staying. Daniel noticed traces of tears on the lady's face. It was impolite to ask such a thing, but he couldn't help himself. They are finally about to leave. Frisia is acting strange. It is not entirely comfortable to be around him. On the way away from the castle, he met Leo, who for some reason decided to talk to the Valentine family again. The Duke and the young master are still here, but it is obvious that the three will be the first to leave the hall. My daughter had a headache, so they let her go. She is soft-bodied and cries often. Leo apologizes for accidentally delaying them. That's all. The lady thanks him for his concern and gets ready to leave. The red-haired man suggests communicating more often. He felt lonely without his brother, and connections with his peers would help him cheer up. They are all the same age in 3 families. There are 4 of the same age. It seems that they will become wonderful friends. Of the 3 families, 2 agreed. If they don't give confirmation, everything could lead somewhere completely wrong, and then the situation will end badly. Alicia, as it turns out, is also for it, since the little girl wants it. The heroine cannot, but agree they will often exchange letters. After such an agreement, the woman definitely wants to leave, and she was detained even longer than expected. My head really is splitting. There is something in the bushes outside, and I can hear an unpleasant rustling sound. Rosetta feels terrible. Her body is swaying, and when asked what is wrong, she simply brushes it off. It appeared for a moment and then disappeared, but there was definitely a blue body there, like a monster. The one that Julian controlled. When the lady opened her eyes, Diana was nearby. Several days passed. Every time the lady woke up, she could not even eat. As the woman told her story, something began to emerge in her memory, or rather, Alicia's crying face. Late in the evenings, the brunette was nearby. Cassian never left, as he was probably very worried. When the lady came to, she constantly thought about what she saw that day. She was not sure whether that animal was real or not. At the tea party, the girl heard that her brother and father had also visited her, and they were no less worried than the others. Maxwell fell ill literally a day ago as soon as the heroine felt better. He felt bad because his temperature rose. Logan reported that there are almost no symptoms. Most likely it is normal fatigue. This is due to intense training. The man was probably very tired. Fencing and magical powers forced him not to sleep, but on the contrary, to develop his potential. In any case, there's nothing to worry about. He needs to rest and take medication, and then he will recover quickly. I would like to hope that everything will end well. There is also something to say about the elixir that the doctor was asked to prepare. Research into several of the combinations provided has been successful, but there is still much work to be done. Among the recipes, Rosetta chose the best ones, and those with ingredients available in this world. It needs to be explored through trial and error. It's not easy because this is a recipe given by the Celestials. The medicines that the man had already made had already undergone some kind of testing, which, as it turned out, was indispensable. It was tested on the body of a doctor. He is resistant to poison's. Words about being careful, in this case, are not necessary. It turned out that some ingredients were missing, for example, stimulants, or more precisely, growth pills. If you take them, the internal energy will be smooth. They cleanse the blood and help the body to fully recover. Blanca can get more, but in the Empire it will be difficult. It will take more than 2 years to get what she wants. It's a pity that nothing is working out. They only have 1 year. They need to keep moving forward. The woman will look for the antlers of a white deer. She is confident that she can do it herself. She only needs a few months. The deer with dark antlers appeared in one of the important episodes of the novel, so it will be a little easier. Virgo is asking about Logan's student, which he himself does not consider him to be. Sober would be upset to hear this. The knight actually does a pretty good job. It's hard to believe he was born to fight. The redhead decided to end the fighting. He was dedicated to this cause because he could not cope with David's threats. He wants to become a herbalist. The boy's father is a doctor who sells medicine, so he needs help. This option suits everyone. They just need someone who can cure Leah. Suddenly, the lady realizes that in the original, as Sober said, he had a pale face with dark circles under his eyes. He definitely hates the Duke's family. If they hadn't changed anything, David would have become the senior knight, and the boy would have suffered. In the original, the man was a doctor, and having freed himself from the stigma of being a servant, he came to hate his family and abandoned the duchy. The collapse of the family in the past did not happen out of nowhere. Only a nanny with character and a knight who took his place by dishonest means remained in the house. The girl will not only support the man, but will also provide him with everything he needs to become a doctor. Sober was not chosen just like that. He needs to pass the test and prepare a special medicine that will later be used. Logan doesn't understand how the girl manages to find such strange individuals. Blanca is the representative of all such people. Sober is already in the process of studying the disease, although he needs more time. This does not mean that in the end there will not be a result. The elixir is already finished, which means there will be more time left, and this is considered a good thing. The little girl was allowed into the room, and she immediately hugged her sister. Overall, her condition was deteriorating slowly, and everything would be fine. Some of the prepared foods helped with detoxification, so the child is already doing better as expected. The mentor seems stern, but seeing his concern, the red-haired man thinks that he is actually a kind, respectable man, like the Duchess. The feeling prompted me to become a real person inside, who helps everyone else in the same way. Logan calls again, this time with a question about an ingredient that is so special that nothing is known about it. All the young man knows is that the thing has not yet appeared in this world, so preparation will take some time. The girl opens her eyes. She is in a dream about her second reincarnation. The body is lying down, and there are many pink shades of flowers around. Shinmok comes forward. Of all the beauty's brothers, he was the only one who felt sorry for his sister. He was once a brilliant martial artist, but after losing his eyes, he became interested in medicine. Many wanted to become his students and learn the recipes, but the brunette was the only one he truly taught. The man sees different things because he is blind, and when he speaks like this, he closes his eyes from which tears flow. Now the brother leads the girl forward. He wants her to learn martial arts much more slowly. This pace will be the most acceptable. The girl should be more careful, because he will be sad if everything suddenly ends and she never comes back. One day the lady will go somewhere else. The journey is not over. The words seem aimless, but they contain meaning. Opening her eyes, the blonde tries to drive away the migraine. Obviously, Mock wanted to say something, but the meaning remained hidden. The girl doesn't remember how she fell asleep at all. She was in the room with the young man and watched him lay down on the sofa. And that's how it all ended. The woman found herself in the bed where the patient was supposed to be lying, while he was standing by the window and looking into the distance. The beauty is not going to lie down any longer, because she doesn't see any point in it. The one who woke up must get up. Today, the lady's complexion has improved. She probably feels a little better before this. Everything was not so good. The man never asked why the lady had acted like a madwoman that day after the funeral. It seems that on that day I saw a monster that has been haunting me for a long time. It really scares me. In the fall, there will be a hunting tournament, and after that, there will be a ball. The words are a hint that you need to go there. The man doesn't understand what's going on, but he says that after he recovers, he should start training. The face is closer to the hand. It seems the guy is not feeling well, judging by the way he is caressing. There seems to be a slight fever left, but everything will be fine. It took less than a couple of days for Carter to fully recover. The three moved into the garden to discuss future strategies. Logan made his choice and submitted it. Thanks to the brunette's mana reserves adding to all this, his innate energy and ability to cast spells, it will be possible to enchant the sword. Diana thought that there was an aura around the weapon, and people who had never seen anything like it would agree with her in many ways. Blanca recently handed over that very weapon called the whip. The blonde admits that the work done was colossal. The testing is not completely finished. The lady has not advanced that far, which is a pity. First, you need to try the thing out. If something goes wrong, you can always contact the woman to find out the details. I would like to know about the auction lot that was transferred for investigation. There should be at least some news by now. The location has not yet been determined. Arcano is always revealed just before the event itself. The Duchess nods. Of course, the news upset her, but she hopes for the lady they cannot miss the opportunity. The woman learned the news from a book, although in fact the source was different. It's just not worth telling. The beauty tested the perfect sword whip. It's good that Blanca is an ally. She can create anything. In her second reincarnation, the lady always trained first with sticks and then with real weapons. In the case of Madame, she has a wonderful iron fan. It is impossible to say for sure whether it is a dance or an art. For some reason, the fan didn't return even when the lady launched it. She looks around to see where it went. In the distance stands the figure of the father. It is he who has grabbed the weapon, his light eyes looking intently at his daughter.